contesting, I guess, earlier. This is the call to order. This is the call to order for a regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We'll also be sitting as all special taxing districts. This is the August 16th, 2021. This is 9 a.m. Board members can attend or will attend in person by telephone or via remote conferencing, which in this particular case is not necessary. This is the call to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this morning by Supervisor Francis.
Oh, me? Okay. Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I should have said it higher.
Yeah, oh, that's okay.
All right.
Just me today.
You're near the snacks in there.
I know, they look good too. I
Supervisor
was
Lyons
looking
brought
at them.
over to distract us.
I was very distracted.
The next item in the agenda is call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and a decision at a future date. Public comment may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomment@yumacountyarizona.gov. The email forms of public comments will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting, and all public comments will be read aloud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any email comments? All right, well, I'm going to open it up to the public. There are two items that I want to deal with in the public. One is a presentation, and I'll do the presentation first. We have a couple of guests today, Kathleen Pope from STAY and Michael Hadland from Charter Communications, and they will step up. We'll have a check presentation. Yeah, we'll take 10% of that every time we do this.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors of Yuma County. Thank you for having me here today. I'm here today to talk about, I'm Michael Hadland with Charter Communications, but I'm here today to talk about a partnership with a great organization here in Yuma County, and that is STAY, the School Tuition Assistance of Yuma. I'd like to introduce Caitlin Pope to discuss that a little bit.
Michael, before you go on, Charter, when somebody told me you were here from Charter, I figured, what, we know them as Spectrum, right? It's the cable company.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, fine. So it is a Spectrum.
Yes.
Just so that everybody that's watching would know.
Thank you for having us. I'm Caitlin Pope. I'm with School Tuition Association of Yuma, or STAY. We implement the Arizona tax credit program, the private school tax credit program. So we receive donations that qualify for a dollar-for-dollar tax credit, and then we use those to give children in the community scholarships to attend a private school of their choice. So this program is the low-income corporate program, which means that these are for children who are low income by the standards of Arizona and would not otherwise probably be able to attend a private school. So with partnerships like Charter, we're actually able to help many children attend a private school here in Yuma and keep money in Yuma. So we want to thank Charter for their partnership and helping us keep money here in Yuma and send kids to the school of their choice.
Great. One question, do you have any particular academic standards, or is it just qualifying for the is it low income qualifying, or is there some academic?
It's low income qualifying. Yeah, we don't look at academic standards. Our program, what we do look at is just the need of the child, and our goal is to allow them to pick whatever school they're going to flourish in. We think that all kids are unique and that they may flourish in one school over another, whatever works best for them. And we don't want it to be a financial decision. So that's where we come in and we step in and allow them to pick a school that they may otherwise not be able to afford. And we want to make sure that even the low income kids have that opportunity.
That's great. And that's what we were looking for, an answer like that. We've been talking a lot about how kids that do well in school find their way to, assistance, and kids that are middle range and just have a tough time getting through and getting the scholarships they need to move ahead.
And
so,
yeah.
Do you mind if we go in front there and stay with you? When you
absolutely, we'd love that. Anybody?
Thank you.
It's one of those times where we don't have to spend any money to be out of the picture. That's a big check. Yeah. Step back a little bit to the middle. There we go. So, fortunately, Supervisor Bush. To watch my wallet again. Thank you, guys.
Wait.
One
For me, sorry.
She
Marley needs to get hers. Thank you.
Now, do you want a picture with just you two? So we can step up? Yeah, sure. Step up. Let's just have them take one picture with it.
Thank you guys very much. You're welcome. Go ahead. I'm the last one up.
Yeah. You guys can't do the crossing right there. Move forward, Steve. You're gonna be in the background and you're gonna bomb that picture.
Yeah, photo
Thank you,
bomb.
guys.
Thanks
Bye, thanks.
I thought you stopped in because you couldn't get through there for a minute.
No, I didn't want to get in your picture.
Thank you, guys, for coming up and allowing us to be witnesses to that. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So the next item in the agenda is Mr. Giordano Bruno from Fortuna. He lists his address in Fortuna Foothills. Mr. Giordano, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this is the fourth time I've been here. And last time I was here, Mr. Reyes, Yuma is the gift that keeps on giving. Last time I told you about how your county attorney has declared that my cameras, the very act of recording causes pain, suffering, and trauma. And I can tell you're not listening, and I know you don't really care. And so, because last time I was here, when I left, I was literally outside of the building, and Mr. Reyes, you totally dismissed my First Amendment right. You said the call to the public is abuse of you. So here I am, I'm back here to abuse you some more and engage in my First Amendment right. And so I'm gonna keep continuing to engage in my First Amendment right. And so I'm gonna start taking pictures of you for my 3 minutes. Did that hurt? Did that hurt? It didn't hurt? Did that hurt? It didn't hurt? All right, okay, come on. Now, I'm told that this guy over here says this causes pain, suffering, and trauma. And you're the one who said that this causes abuse. Is this abusive to you? Here, I'm gonna abuse your sound guy. Hi, sound guy, I'm gonna totally abuse you. So, thanks for your time. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Don't forget your
My
camera.
camera, yes, thank you. Have a good day. See you in a week. Arrest me? Thank you.
You done? All right, let's go on. All right, look, I've got another a speaker form, but this is for the Sierra Sand subdivision. So when the time comes, I'll call you. You don't have to do this at the public forum. We do have an item to discuss on that. And anybody else from the public wants to address the board? You don't need to necessarily fill out a speaker form, but we would appreciate it. If not, then we'll move on then to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. During this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment. No legal action will be taken. The first item will be presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
Of added lanes. Some departments will soon be moving out of our 197 building. Where are they heading? And Arizona law students take part in a local internship program. These stories and more, this is your County Line. A much-needed project to help reduce congestion on part of US 95 is officially underway. The Arizona Department of Transportation, or ADOT, broke ground on US 95 Widening project on August 5th. Crews will begin construction on August 23rd to reconstruct and widen US 95 from a 2-lane undivided highway to 5 lanes.
A lot of accidents out there. There's a lot of turn-ins and pull-offs, you know, at the VFW and other places where people are slowing down. So with no turn lane or any option, you end up getting the bad accidents out there.
Once complete, the highway will include 2 travel lanes in each direction. The addition of a center 2-way left turn lane will provide a high level of service to meet the connectivity needs of surrounding urban, agriculture, military, and distant metropolitan areas. Residents who travel along US 95 can expect delays as lane restrictions will be necessary during work hours, which are 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. ADOT expects the project to be complete in summer of 2023. Employees from the treasurer's, assessor's, recorder's, and elections offices are preparing to move temporarily as the existing building gets a major renovation. The treasurer's office, located at 197 South Main Street, will be the first department to move on September 15th. Rental of 2550 South 4th Avenue, which housed the YMCA, is complete and will be the temporary location of the treasurer and assessor's office.
I'm going to mail the tax bills in late September, and the first half payment is due November 1st. I encourage people to mail their property taxes, pay online, call our IVR 800 number to make their payments. If they do need to visit us, they really need to go to 2550 4th Avenue.
New signage for the building has been ordered, as well as cubicle and office furniture. We'll keep you up to date when and where other departments plan to move as the project progresses. Finding a job can be challenging. Many employers want to hire someone with experience that complements the position, but it's not always easy to have experience coming straight from college, especially if you're a young attorney. Our Legal and Public Defender's Office started a program 15 years ago that would help legal hopefuls achieve their goals and benefit Yuma at the same time. In 2006, employees of the Legal and Public Defender's Office recognized a local problem. Recruiting attorneys to relocate to Yuma to practice law was quite difficult. They set out to create a program that was mutually beneficial to both prospective attorneys and your county government.
On the one hand, it really helps the interns get a real strong experience of the practice of law and litigation, and on the other, it improves our practice by getting all the resources that these interns bring to the table, additional research, writing, things like that.
This year, there were 4 intern attorneys working with the Public Defender's Office. 2 students were from the University of Arizona, as well as 2 from Arizona State University.
I'm a person that when I learn by doing, and this summer I did a lot of learning by doing. So I think that once I go back to the U of A and I'm taking these classes like criminal law, evidence, I'll be able to attach it to a case that I worked here. So I think putting that and connecting both, it's going to help us a lot and help us succeed in our studies.
It's the hope of our local attorneys that this experience will lay the groundwork for some of the interns to return to Yuma after graduation. The legal intern program continues to be very popular, and the field of candidates applying continues to grow. For information on the Public Defender's Office, you can visit our webpage at yumacountyaz.gov and search under the Government tab.
Hi, I'm Mary, and this is your Health Watch. World Breastfeeding Month is celebrated around the world during the month of August. This year, we focus on the important role breastfeeding plays in the survival, health, and well-being for all, and the importance of protecting breastfeeding worldwide. The idea of building back better after the COVID-19 pandemic will provide a chance to create a warm chain of support for breastfeeding that includes healthcare systems, workplaces, and communities at all levels of society. World Breastfeeding Month aims to raise awareness of the health and well-being outcomes of breastfeeding and the importance of supporting mothers to breastfeeding for as long as they wish. WIC is here to be a part of that warm chain of support. For more information about WIC and breastfeeding, please contact us at 928-317-4500. Protect breastfeeding, a shared responsibility. This is your Health Watch. Stay healthy, Yuma.
Before we go, we need to make sure you're aware of a change in our schedule for the next county line. Labor Day weekend is upon us, so please remember that most of your county government offices will be closed on Monday, September 6th. That means your regular Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting will be held on Wednesday, September 8th. We'd like to thank you for joining us for this county line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And remember, you can join us live on Facebook. We'd like to leave you now with a message from Yuma County employee Carla Vasquez, telling us why she loves working for the county.
My name is Carla Vasquez. I am a benefits specialist with Yuma County Human Resources, and I have been with the county for a little bit over 5 years. My favorite part about my job is definitely the health and wellness, coming up with new ideas on how we can continue to provide the well-being and encourage the well-being of our employees on site. I get to see all the exciting new faces of the new hires who get this opportunity, and I let them know that they're in the right place to continue to grow and that they are with an employer who really cares about their well-being.
Ah, well, I've known Carla for some time now. That was not a paid advertisement. No, it was a voluntary one. Well, anyway, thank you very much for the presentation. You know, with the numbers, the census numbers coming out this last week, you know, we sort of reinforced the Hispanic population in Yuma County by having it be over 64, 65% of the county's population is Hispanic. So that it's befitting that we have now the opportunity to actually recognize that through our Yuma County Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. And as part of that, we have with us a special guest, Jose Antonio Larios, who is the consulate, the Mexican consulate representative here in Yuma. And he's here with his assistant to pick up both proclamations. We do have two proclamations. The first one is the Yuma County Hispanic Heritage Month, and the second one is the Mexican Independence Day in Yuma County, which I think over the years, you know, we have learned to separate. As we now know, Hispanics represent a wide swath of our population, and they come from very different places. But the Mexican Independence Day in Yuma County, you know, I'm happy to say it's not May the 5th. It's not Cinco de Mayo. It is the 16th of September. So, well, please, we're going to read the proclamations, and then you can come up here and pick them up. I have Supervisor Lyons, Jonathan Lyons, read the first proclamation. Jonathan?
On August 17th, 1988, public law authorized President Reagan to establish September 15th through October 15th as National Hispanic Heritage Month. And National Hispanic Heritage Month is an opportunity to celebrate a legacy of traditions, rich culture, and honor the significant achievements of our Hispanic and Latino American, Americano, communities. And Hispanics are the largest ethnic minority group in the country and make valuable contributions to the community in business, industry, government, education, the sciences, arts, and faith. And Hispanics have served with distinction in military conflicts since the Revolutionary War and continue to defend our country today as members of the armed forces. These brave men and women bring us honor, and we are grateful for their service and sacrifice. And the respective backgrounds of Hispanics and Latino Americans are an integral part of Yuma County and have made enormous contributions to our diverse society by sharing their talents, culture, traditions, and their deep connection to family values. Now I, therefore, Tony Reyes, Chairman of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, proclaim the month of September 15th through October 15th, 2021 to be Hispanic Heritage Month in Yuma County.
Thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor Lyons. And we're going to read the other proclamations so you can pick them up both, and you can come in and introduce your guest, and we'll get on with this ceremony. So, Supervisor Porches.
Proclaiming the day of September 16, 2021 as Mexican Independence Day in Yuma County. Whereas on September 16, 1810, Father Miguel Hidalgo gave the memorial Grito de Dolores speech in Dolores, Mexico, which marked the beginning of a long journey toward independence. This day is celebrated as Mexican Independence Day, and whereas on August 24, 1821, the Treaty of Cordova was signed, giving birth to a new and independent nation led by Agustin de Iturbide, who was appointed after leading the victorious Trigarante army into Mexico City. And whereas Yuma County has a historic relationship with Mexico based in strong social, cultural, and economic ties. And whereas this family-friendly and civic celebration is designed to educate the border community about Mexican history, empower and serve as a link between the Mexican community and local nonprofit organizations in service. And whereas the Mexican community, as part of the growing Hispanic population in the county, is an important and active participant in Yuma's society, culture, and economy. And whereas Mexico Independence Day is the day for Yuma citizens of Mexican heritage to celebrate their culture by honoring the rich history, industriousness, and spirits of Mexicans. Now therefore proclaim the day of September 16, 2021 as Mexican Independence Day in Yuma County.
And I do want to say something before you step up. I want to thank Alejandro Figueroa and Kevin Tanel, because this year we've also taped the video, a group video, which I want to thank the supervisors for taking the time to come over and tape it. It is the first time we as a board have taped a video congratulating Mexican Americans in that particular case for their contributions to the culture and the economic, the agricultural culture and social contributions in Yuma County. So, Council?
Chairman, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate a lot this space you are doing in the board, proclaiming September 16 as the Mexican Independence Day in Yuma. And also, it's an honor for me receiving this proclamation of the Hispanic Month. I know that the 60 or maybe more, 60% of the population in Yuma, they are Hispanics. And well, the Mexican consulate provides services, you know, especially or particularly to Mexican nationals, but also we try to provide some, at least some orientation to people who come from other parts of Latin America. We have a group of Central American consulates in Tucson and Phoenix. They come sometimes here at Yuma, and we work together and have sometimes meetings with CBP and the Border Patrol, etc., because, you know, the reality of the immigration coming from our countries to this region. So it's an honor for me to receive these both proclamations, and as always, I appreciate a lot. This is the third consecutive year the Board of Supervisors organized this. And also this coming September 16, we will be celebrating in a virtual way because the problem of COVID-19, so that is, I think, the best way to protect the health of our population. Thank you very much. And
well, we're going to go down there and give you the proclamations, and you know, you didn't introduce your guest, and I was hoping you would introduce your guest, because I know she has a mask on, but I recognize her.
Muchas gracias.
Oh, la trepa que le toma fotos, ya bien, ¿cómo son dos? No va a salir. Pues otra vez, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Tony. De verdad, se lo aprecio mucho.
Thank
you very much. Muchas gracias. Martín, muchas gracias. Mr. Simons, thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, pardon me, go ahead. I just wanted to say, oh,
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Se pueden quedar con el folder, no tienen que regresarlo, ahí dice regréselo. So the folder says bring it back, and I said, no, you don't have to bring the folder back, just keep the folder. Thank you. I did acknowledge the work that Kevin and his team did for that video, and also Alejandro Figueroa, who I don't see here, but I'm sure he's around. They coordinated a taping of a video to, just congratulating the Mexican American population in Yuma County. And like I said, I want to reemphasize the board's participation in that. It was appreciated, especially because they had to wait a little longer than normal. All right, we'll move on then to the consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon with one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion. We have 11 items in this particular consent calendar. Are there any items that any board member wants to pull? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the consent calendar as it's listed.
I'll second.
There was a motion and a second. Everything legally in here can be done this way? There were some legal actions here that
Yeah,
the last two items, 10 and 11. I just want to make sure that we can cover them with that. I mean, if it's in the consent agenda, I suppose they don't need to be discussed.
No, they're fine.
Okay, good. So there being no further discussion on the items, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries, and we'll begin the discussion and action items, and we'll open each of the following items separately for discussion and action as appropriate. The County Administration Public Health Service District Emergency Management is the first item in the agenda, and it's discussion and possible action regarding COVID-19 updates and activities. For that, we'll begin with the County Health Department Director, Ms. Diana Gomez. I know it's an item that we thought we could get off the agenda, and here we are back with it. So can you give us a brief summary where we stand?
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Diana Gomez, Director of Public Health. So we continue to see, like everybody else in the country, an increase in cases, which if you're following the updates, you'll see most of them, again, like I said last week, are driven by the Delta variant. I shared with you last time that not all tests are sent for sequencing. A small sample of that subset is, but what we're seeing predominantly is like 85 to 90% of those sequence cases are coming back as Delta variant. Now, the reason we're seeing those cases is because it's much more easy to transmit the case. These cases, the transmission rate, the R0 rate, which we see typically in the first iteration of the virus, we saw 2 people, you could infect 2 people unknowingly, so 2 times 2, 4 times 2, 8. This Delta variant, you've seen the R rate listed as somewhere between 4 and as high as 7. So to just give you perspective from the low estimate, if you do 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 is 64 compared to 8. If you go a little even, let's say 6, 6 times 6, 36 times 6, 212. So you can see how that R rate, which is the level of infection, it's just math, and it's just easier to spread. So that's what we're seeing. And again, we're in a better position as far as being better informed. We know how to treat it better. We know, there's more options. People prepared before and during. So PPE, we're starting to see some, I guess, just not some little issues with the chain of supply, but people are still doing well. We continue to provide PPE supplies to people, to nursing homes, to some of these facilities that need them. So we're doing well in that end. As far as our positivity rate, we had a fairly low of 2 earlier in the year. We're up to 16. Today, I think it was at 18%. So again, consistent with what you're seeing with the numbers. So you will start noticing, again, that this will, you're seeing it across the country. It's a trend that we're not immune to. As people are returning to work, we're going back to school. We're just, we've made some very important social and economic gains as far as, people just reopening stuff, and I think we need to maintain them. Again, another reason to remind people of things they can do to protect themselves. We have a vaccination rate here in the county that's increased slightly. We're holding steady at like right below 50%, and now we're at 51.8. So we've seen a slight uptick in people coming to get vaccines. Approximately a little over 100,000 of our residents have been fully vaccinated.
Again, no vaccine is perfect. We understand that people have questions or concerns. It's important to acknowledge those concerns. It's important to answer those questions. So I continue to encourage people, if you have questions or concerns about getting the vaccine, please reach out to your healthcare provider. In other updates, you might have noticed that the Food and Drug Administration approved third doses for immunocompromised individuals. You asked about that at the last meeting. After that was the first step that paved the way for the CDC to revise their guidance. The FDA approved those third doses on Thursday. On Friday, the CDC Vaccine Advisory Committee met and approved that as well. So again, right now, those third doses are recommended for people that have immunocompromised conditions. And there's a list. Primarily, we're looking at people that are organ transplant recipients that are taking medication that suppresses their natural immune system. We're looking at people with conditions like HIV that have compromised immune systems. So right now it's not all broad general chronic disease conditions. So again, it's important for people to get information and reach out. Other things that we're looking at, you've read the news, you've seen some outbreaks in schools. And you've seen some reporting. Schools are being really good about working with us since the beginning of the pandemic. We have worked with them, as far as PPE guidance and protective measures. They've done really well. But again, you're seeing this Delta variant affect younger people, including some children. And so I think there's a misconception that children don't get infected. And we've said from the very beginning, we're very, very fortunate that in the beginning and throughout the majority of the pandemic, the infections that we saw in children were primarily asymptomatic or mild to moderate, where they could be managed at home, which was really good. This virus is more contagious, and why we're seeing, one of the reasons why we're seeing more cases in children is because our adult populations have mixed. I shared with you some of the rates among our older population. Children under 12 are not eligible to receive the vaccine. And so as a virus replicate, they find a susceptible host and they replicate, that's what they do. So the under 12 population is a concentrated population versus if you're looking at other age groups, you have a mix, you have a certain percentage, a pretty high percentage of adults that's vaccinated in some of our other age categories. Not so with the under 12. So I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying, well, thank God, children don't get it. And I said, no, children do get it, and we're lucky that we hadn't, that it's mostly mild and moderate up to this point. But it's one of those things, I've said it before, where I value the opportunity to be up here because we have these conversations and you ask questions. It gives me an opportunity to answer those questions. And so it made me think about our messaging. We align our messaging and we say, I think it's like the under 18, right? We classify that as a younger age group and we report our data like that. But I wanted to, it made me question, if there's that misconception. So I wanted to share some data with you. We went back and looked at the beginning of the pandemic. I think our first case was in mid-March. And we looked at the end of July before school started. And so we looked at the 0 to 4 age group. And in that age group, we had 610 cases. And then we looked at the 5 to 9-year-olds, and we had 951 confirmed cases. And then the 10 to 14-year-olds, we had 1,502 cases. So it's I think the total is like 3,603 cases. And so those are lab confirmed cases. That doesn't mean that's all the cases there were. That just means those are kids that probably were symptomatic, so their parents or their provider tested them and they got confirmed. Again, it's important to be cautious of the fact that there's no absolutes. So again, those were just cases that we tested and that we identified. So when you look at that 3,603 cases, at that point, I think our total in July of cases was, just shy of I think it was 37,000 cases in the county. So they made right under 10% of our cases was under the 14 age group. So again, it's data. It's just to inform people, but it made me wonder if, a lot of it, we talk about communication and effectiveness. And so when we have these conversations or have this opportunity to talk to other people and they ask a question, sometimes it allows the opportunity to figure out a way to share information that would, in a better way, or so that people, again, can make the decision they need to make that's best to protect the health and safety of their family. So those are some of the updates that we have. We'll continue to work with the schools. We know that there's some hospitals across the state that are starting to get additional staffing needed as cases in certain parts start to increase. Again, the concern is not to overwhelm the system. Like I said earlier, we are better informed, but we're still in a very, I think, complicated situation as we move forward. So again, we don't want to overwhelm the healthcare system. We know now, we've seen what can happen, and we certainly don't want to be in a position where although we have the option to transfer people out through the surge line, again, we don't want to see that happen. We, again, have made, economic and social gains. We want to retain those as we move forward. Nursing facilities, again, we're faced with a tough choice of restricting personnel. Hospitals, in some instances, we're faced with a tough choice of cutting back or rescheduling elective procedures. So again, things that we've seen before that we're preparing. And again, that's why this information is important, just so people are aware. And so if you have any questions, again, about vaccines or any other concerns, please, look at a trusted source, reach out. We are more than happy to answer those questions.
Sure, Supervisor.
Director Diana. Emergency status of the vaccine. Do you have any indication of when that will change? I think that'll make a big difference.
And so optimistic, or at least what the estimate is, that we're thinking mid-September, possibly sooner, but we're hoping that sometime in September it will receive full authorization. Again, more likely Pfizer was first in line, applied for that full authorization. And so they would be the first to be approved. Moderna is right behind them. And that just reminded me, with this third dose, that emergency use authorization that allows for a third dose is only applicable to the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine. There has been no update to the emergency use authorization for Johnson & Johnson. So at this point, we have no guidance on whether they're recommending a second dose or a booster dose for Johnson & Johnson. So that emergency use authorization extension for the third dose, again, only for Moderna and Pfizer. So hopefully in a few weeks, I'm up here telling you better news.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure,
Just a quick question, Diana, with the harvesting season coming fast approaching and the snowbirds will be coming back, how are we going to be set for vaccine? Do you have any idea? Because I know there's an expiration on it, but are we, we start getting the influx of people and they were wanting vaccines, are we going to be able to?
So fortunately, we're in a position where and I don't want to jinx myself, but hopefully we're in a good position where we will have vaccine available. The question was, I think last time, whether if the third dose was applied, where we would have ample supply. So at this point, we anticipate we will have ample supply. Most of the local providers here in town have access to Moderna and Pfizer. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine was one where it was, right now it's really hard to procure across the state. And part of that was because there was a big amount that was readily available and it was set to expire, so people wanted to make sure that dose didn't go unused. So what they did was we call it vaccine matching. And so you reach out to another community and maybe in another part of the state and you say, do you have some J&J that you don't need? And then you either go up there and pick it up or there's some sort of transfer. So J&J has been incredibly limited. Getting it here right now has been an issue, and that was because until that supply was mostly depleted, the CDC was not sending any more J&J to states. We anticipate that as those reserves have gone dramatically down, that will open up again, and we will see Johnson vaccine again coming down to the states as early as next month. And that'll be important because a lot of people would prefer to have the one dose vaccine. And again, still waiting on guidance regarding what that would be as far as an updated emergency use authorization for Johnson.
Are you working at all with your counterparts across the border to find out what they're doing to, I mean, this is a regional thing. I mean, whomever doesn't realize that people are crossing the border thousands of times a day is not really taking into account the global nature of this pandemic. And as long as we have this continuous trade with Mexico, both people and goods, it's going to be just not smart to think that we can do something here and just keep it, control it here, and it's uncontrollable across the border. Do you have any idea at all what they're doing out there?
So, again, they're in the tiered system. Their cases are going up as well. There's been some binational efforts. I know that we've worked with U of A. I know Regional Center has worked with them as well, where we've done some binational vaccination, and eligible populations have gotten vaccinated, in a neutral zone. So again, to your point about this being a region and it's important, this is a pandemic, meaning, it's all over the world. And this pandemic will continue until there's access to vaccine and those cases drive down across the world. That's why it's a pandemic. Then it'll maybe become endemic or localized. But to your point, yes, we continue to work with them and try to identify those opportunities when available. And I know that I think they're waiting for children under the age of 12 to become eligible again. Last Friday, right when I was leaving, I got correspondence from a parent who wanted to know if we could donate vaccines to children, under the age of 12 there. But again, they have their own set of rules and guidelines, and they have their own tiered system. So some parents are, waiting for that as well. So.
Okay, so are there any other additional questions you may have about the vaccine or what's going on?
Mr. Chair, one more question.
Sure.
Oh, Mark, go ahead, Martin.
I was just gonna make a comment on, just when you mentioned the virus, having a host. And I think since the very beginning, when the pandemic started, that we tend to always don't educate the public on how viruses work. And as long as there's a host, that virus is going to keep mutating and getting, different strains. So, I mean, should we start maybe at least a little bit of kind of educating how viruses work? I think, that's the people, I don't want to get vaccinated by whatever reason they choose not to, but, educating them how viruses work. It's they keep mutating as long as there's a host. So.
And you make a very good point, and I think that's why I was surprised when I was having this conversation with somebody, because in my in my world, you think that you have that understanding, and sometimes you're not sensitive to the fact that there needs to be a different level or a different way. And I know that sometimes when I'm learning something, somebody explains it to me one way and somebody else explains it another way, it just makes a difference. So I was very surprised when I got that comment of at least they don't get infected. Because I thought we were doing a good job of sharing the fact that it could happen and that children did in fact get infected and they in fact transmitted the disease. So that was a reminder to me that I need to do a better job, and it goes back to your point as far as educating people. A virus replicates, and this is a very effective virus, so.
I'll throw out another comment. Just I work with plants, and here in Yuma County, a lot of the cold crops get viruses, and the way it's very hard to control them with any materials or chemicals or whatever, but seed companies always try to get plants or to breed them, get them resistant, and that's the only way that viruses will be eliminated in some plants. But there's always some that, you still use the old plants or old seed, and it comes back again, and it comes stronger, but it keeps it, and as long as there's a host, and it's still going to continue to mutate and be there.
They adapt.
And I think that's why we were sort of all lulled into a sense of security once it started to go down, and everybody, well, not everybody, but most And it's really key to remember that the most impacted at the beginning were the elderly and the ones with chronic conditions. And those vaccination rates are way higher than the regular population. So the problem is now we've seen the other end of the spectrum, and we're having children, as they are the least vaccinated of the bunch. They're having the biggest. They're having to bear the brunt of the sickness or illness. I think it's something difficult to deal with. I know the schools are struggling with it. You read in the paper they have to close down to,
Virtual learning, yeah.
yeah, and that's really tough on the kids. I know my kid, and I have one. I have a teenager, and I for sure can tell you as a parent that for her, the remote learning wasn't much of a tool that she could use, and so it's just a difficult time. And hopefully, those districts can find their way into being able to stay open at the same time they deal with the surge that we're experiencing now. And hopefully the surge will be over in a couple of weeks, if not a month, and we won't overreact. But it's really difficult, and it's a day-to-day thing that we need to keep an eye on. And we're going to try to follow the science on this. So it's critical that you stay in touch with us, or with me in particular, if you need anything, or is there anything we can do to help deal with this. This is a difficult one. I know Supervisor Pancras, he called about hospitalization rates and the use of the hospital, the capacity of the hospital. That's always a concern. I think that there's some fortunate, if we could call fortunate, things that are happening, such as the really lack of a flu season that we can call a flu season. But I think people need to be reminded you need to vaccinate again against the flu, and not just, in other words, you got to keep up with all the other viruses or whatever we're dealing with. So just a reminder to everybody, this is not the time to let your guard down. This is the time to keep watching and keep doing things that social distancing, watch your hands, do the things that you have become accustomed to doing, and hopefully we'll be able to break through this, what is it, third wave or fourth wave? I don't remember. We had so many waves now. So thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Mr.
Sure.
Chair, the health department still is going to offer flu shots, correct?
Yes, we will offer flu shots, and we still have our COVID-19 vaccine clinics Monday through Thursday from 8:30 to 11:30. And I know that vaccines are readily available at your local pharmacy. We have community partners that are doing that as well.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman. Diana, would you let us know when there's more Johnson available? I've had a number of requests for that.
We will.
Right. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, I have one more question. Are they going to give a booster shot for the Johnson & Johnson eventually?
No.
No.
Right now, we don't have that guidance yet. The emergency
Okay.
use authorization only expanded to those.
I had a conversation with a couple of people in that field specifically related to the Johnson, and they said it was extremely powerful against the Delta variant.
Oh,
and that
good.
booster would not be needed.
Okay, good, thanks. That's what I
That was
needed.
last week.
I can say that the only thing that's stable about this is that it isn't stable, that it keeps changing. I mean, those variants keep getting tougher and tougher to deal with. So hopefully, we will remember that if only 20% of the whole world is vaccinated, that leaves 80% of the world without a vaccine. Even though this country can claim to have 50 to 60% of people vaccinated, we're still dealing with something that is difficult to manage and control as long as it keeps changing and it keeps adapting to whatever we throw at it. So everybody should just heed the message. You can't control what's happening in Africa, what's happening in Mexico, but you can control what's happening here. And so I keep reminding everybody, just do your part and hope somebody else will do theirs and help out as much as we can.
And keep the
Anything
dialogue
else?
open, and just ask questions and just.
And thank you very much, because I know it's because of efforts of people like yourself and other people that we've sort of been able to navigate this latest variant with as little morbidity as possible. I mean, we haven't had that many deaths, and I know one is too many, but there's a silver lining to that. People are landing in the hospital, but they're not. But there are now ways to treat it that weren't available last year. So there are some good news in the middle of all this issues. Thank you very much, Diana,
so
and
much.
thank the rest of the health department for their incredible work. Tony Badia, do you have anything to report other than the continuous warnings about floods and dust storms and they're coming out, interrupting every program that I ever watch?
Tony Badia, Director of Emergency Management. No, just people need to be, take aware of the flooding issues. We had them out in Maricopa County and Gila Bend. Unfortunately, they had 3 washes that were overrun and houses up to about 4 feet of water in them. So they've got like 180 houses that have been evacuated. So let's keep them in our thoughts.
It's just, I mean, obviously, it should help with our drought conditions. Is it already obvious it will, or is it's still too early to tell?
Sorry, sir?
The drought conditions, most of the state was in a drought.
Well, the issues we have is when we start having rain on a regular basis like that, the ground starts to become saturated. And then the ground does no longer move that water along. The washes get overwhelmed, and especially with a large amount of rain like we had in Somerton probably about 7-8 years ago. Fortunately, Somerton's a little higher than Gila Bend when they got I think about 4 or 5 inches of rain in a matter of a couple of hours, and that's what happened to Gila Bend. They got a lot of rain in a short period of time, and the washes just can't handle that type of flow, and it's probably going to be considered a 200-year flood. So I was on the phone with them over the weekend and just recently, and they've got a lot of resources up there. They do have a lot of supplies that have been delivered, so they're doing very fortunate for a community. They are in Maricopa County, and Maricopa County Office of Emergency Management has been on top of coordinating that with their Arizona Department of Emergency Management.
Well, something's going on with San Luis. It's too hot, I guess. It
Yeah,
doesn't get much rain.
Yeah,
Everything happens in Somerton or the East Valley.
The issue is lower areas such as the valley. People need to
the
be
valley.
really aware of their rain gutters, to make sure they have everything set up. If they don't have sandbags, then contact local fire department, contact my agency.
I mean, there are rain gutters in Yuma?
Yeah, people have rain gutters. They gather a lot of dust most of the year, but they do use them and have problems with flooding of their areas.
Well, keep an eye on everything, Tony, and let us know if there's
Mr.
anything we can do.
Mr. Chair, Tony, there was a lot of outreach from the legislators, the state legislators that represent Gila Bend.
Fundraisers.
Yeah, fundraisers and GoFundMe pages and things like that. So I would like to thank Lisa, Charlene, and Joel John for their
Joanne as well.
and Joanne as
Yeah.
well. Okay, for their help in working with Gila Bend and the little town of Ajo.
Right.
The little town of Ajo came to the rescue and were the first ones there to help Gila Bend. So.
And there were
Yeah.
a number of people in our community who are taking up supplies today to drop off at the community center.
Oh, good.
Correct.
Good,
We
thanks.
yeah, one of the
Yes.
words I got is there are some Yuma resources up there right now currently assisting the Church of Latter-day Saints. I know the Red Cross is up there, some of the other organizations. If I get the opportunity, I may make a trip up there to kind of see how this thing is rolling out in a community like that, because very similar communities such as Gila Bend, and it'd be important to see how that rolls.
Mhm.
Sir?
I said I'm going to stop there tomorrow.
On your
Okay.
way up.
Yeah, I'm going to meet with some legislators tomorrow.
All right, Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, we move on then to number 2, giving everybody a chance. The 2 is engineering, discussion and possible action to authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 2021-21, granting a public service franchise to Rancheros Bonitos Water Company for a term of 25 years to expire September the 3rd, 2046.
Good morning, Supervisor, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Frank Sanchez, interim county engineer. Rancheros Bonitos Water Company submitted an application to renew our water franchise, which is set to expire September 3rd of this year. Back on July 19th, the board authorized the publication of notice of intent to grant such franchise, and staff has advertised the ad for the notice of intent, and I have not received any comments on that advertisement. So we're here now with resolution 2021-21 to have the board approve such franchise.
All right, is there any discussion about this, or are we ready for a motion? If we're ready for a motion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the item.
Mr. Chair, go ahead, Martin.
I'll move to approve resolution number 2021-21.
I'll second that.
It's been a motion and a second to approve item number 2 as presented. Any further discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
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 Nobody opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Financial Services, all special taxing districts to establish or adopt property tax rates and assessments of taxes for all applicable Yuma County direct and overlapping general authorities, special districts, and improvement districts for fiscal year 21-22 pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes 42-17151 as indicated on the attached schedule. Gil?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Gil Villegas. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Yuma County. This is a requirement that we have to meet every year so we can be in compliance with statute. We have collected all the levies amounts, the tax rates from all the entities that need to be included in our tax roll. They have been summarized in the spreadsheet that I have provided to you. All there is left is for the board to acknowledge, adopt the report, so it could be sent to the treasurer's office and it can be included to our tax roll.
And let me just clarify that the vast majority of the districts set their own tax rates, and all we get to do is say okay and send them to the treasurer, the assessor. But in reality, we have very little control. Just in case anyone is listening, we just can't change them by ourselves. They are presented to us for their final approval as part of a process, but the process does not give us the authority to make changes, even if we agree or disagree with some of the taxing districts and what they do. Our job is to simply manage their finances, let them know how their finances are close to the end of the year so they can make the proper adjustments. At most, just let them know how they're doing. But other than that, we have very little authority in making any major or even minor changes to their tax district.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Out of the 313 tax authorities that we have in the spreadsheet, the Board of Supervisors only sets levy for the county, primary, library district operations, and debt service, flood control, the improvement districts, which is 161. And I believe this year we have a special case with the Martinez Lake Road Improvement Fund one. Everybody else, they have their own districts, they have their own boards, they adopt their own taxes, their own rate, I should say.
And from what I heard before, we're one of the, if not the high, we have the highest number of improvement districts in the state as a county. So that means that we are tasked with managing some of this, most of this. I guess almost the majority of them, but we really, the ones that most people impacted by, the school districts, those type of things are not within our control. All right, any questions, any comments about this? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to go ahead and approve them and send them to where they need to go. It's applicable.
So moved.
Is there a second? There's been a motion and a second to approve the item as presented. Any more discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
That's anticlimactic. Those opposed? None? It's anticlimactic. You guys do a lot of work, and though it comes as a single item, it really involves a lot of time and a lot of work by the financial department, so, and everybody that's involved with it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the treasurer's office and the assessors as well as school districts. They really helped me on this process, gathering all the tax rates, contacting all the municipalities and the districts, so we can be in compliance with its statute. Thank you.
Right. Okay, number 4, county administration, discuss upon possible action to authorize the county administrator to sign an amended emergency rental assistance program agreement between Yuma County and the Western Arizona Council of Governments, increasing the disbursement for administrative costs or administration costs to 10% for ERAP 1 and 12% for ERAP 2, effective June 1st, 2021. And let me say, we have discussed this at length. There was an issue with, well, not an issue, but there were some questions that were asked by one of the Board of Supervisors members. Have those issues been addressed, those questions been addressed before we begin with them?
Yes, Nancy worked with WACOG, and the responses are provided in the attachment, one of the attachments to this agenda item today.
Okay, so those items have been answered, those questions have been answered, and we're ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, Nancy, can you give us a sort of a brief summary what we're doing?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Nancy Nye with County Administration. As of the end of July, we had expended or been approved about almost $1.2 million, has been deployed to the residents of Yuma County, and about 223 clients had access to service. And the numbers are climbing. I'm happy to say that it seems like the numbers are slowly rising, which is good. Staff is recommending the 10% and 12% only because of the fact that we have no budget for promotion, for marketing the program. So it makes it really difficult when we can't even try and get the prime TV spots to get the word out. We've been doing a lot of the free promotion that where we can. And unfortunately, Western Arizona Council of Government is a grant funding agency, and they are requesting that you award them the full 10% and 15% retroactive to the date of inception of the program. And they are here to answer any questions you may have. As to the questions from the Arizona Multifamily Association, those questions have been answered, and hopefully address all the questions you have. If not, I'll be happy to answer anything.
All right. So what we've gotten into is a program that it's essentially kind of working, but it's becoming very costly to manage, and it's getting to a point now where it may be unsustainable if it continues to be that way for the organization that we set aside to do that. Anybody else wants to make any comments?
No, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the answers to the questions that were posed, and I would propose that we would approve as presented with the increase for 10 and 12%.
Second that.
Then a motion and a second to approve the item as presented. Any more discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Oh, no, you don't, look, when you're winning, you stay winning.
Oh, I know, we're still losing money, we're not.
Yeah, we would ask you to come up and explain it a little bit, but I think that, it's better that way. Thank you very much. We did a lot of explanation during the last meeting. So thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, anyone.
Gina, thank you.
Gina, for coming over. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the planning and zoning agenda, where full legal descriptions of property size for all rezoning cases are available for public review at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors office. And we'll move on to the regular public hearing items, where staff will make a full presentation of each of the following items, followed by separate discussion, public hearing, and action by the Board of Supervisors. The first item is for the Department of Development Service Planning Zoning Division. It's a public hearing on rezoning case number 2118 at Diane Vega from Dow Robbins and Associates, agents for Sunderman Investments LLC and C&G Farms Incorporated, George Amaral Ranches, Jerome and Kelly Balucas, and X2 Properties LLC requested rezoning of 8 parcels, totally 40 acres, 40.92 gross acres in size from rural area 10-acre minimum to planned development, assessors parcel 748-36-016-017, 018, 019, 748-44-033, 034, 035, and assessors parcels number 748-36-016, 017, 018, 019, 748. Am I repeating myself? Okay, and 748-44-033 and -034, 035, and 036, located in the vicinity of Sierra Sands Avenue. Sierra Sands Avenue in County 15.5 Street, Yuma, Arizona. I do have some comments, some comment cards, and I'll get to them as soon as I have the staff open up the meeting and go through their presentation. Okay? Thank you very much. I do have them here. So, staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, present the rezoning case 2118. This is the intent of the application is to create 15 parcels with sizes ranging from 2.05 to 5.0 gross acres in size for residential development. This is the vicinity and zoning map showing the subject parcels, crosshatched and highlighted in red. Properties are in desert terrain, vacant, with the exception of parcel 16, which is the location of the old clubhouse for former golf course in the area. Properties are accessed along Sierra Sands Avenue from the west and internally through ingress easement located on the south of parcel 16 and common lines between all the remaining parcels. Parcels on the north and west are within the Sierra Sands subdivision, zone suburban site built 1 acre minimum, improved with site built homes. Parcel 14, 15, and 5 further west are zones suburban site built 2 acre minimum, improved with site builds with the exception of parcel 5, which is within the Purple Mountain subdivision. Then we have parcels on the west and south, also within the Sierra Sands subdivision, zone suburban site built 1 acre minimum. Most of them improved with site built homes, with the exception of about 2 or 3 parcels. Parcel number 1 to the east is within the city of Yuma, also is the Berry M. Water Range. The zoning for city of Yuma is a military reservation. This is Exhibit A, site plan submitted by the applicant, how all the proposed parcels are going to be split. Parcels 18 and 19 on the north are going to be split into 4 parcels. Parcel 17 is going to be split into 2 parcels. Parcel 16 also into 2 parcels. Parcel 34 is not going to be split, it remains 5 acres. Parcel 33 to be split into 2 parcels. And parcels 35 and 36 to be split into 2 parcels. This is Exhibit B, road improvements. And highlighted in green are the proposed improvements. Applicants are proposing to improve Sierra Sands Avenue from County 15th Street to the widening of Purple Mountain, the west half, and the interior easements. The proposed plan development is going to be governed by suburban site build zoning district and also the following development standards as depicted on this table. The minimum front yard setback will be 25 feet for all parcels. The minimum side and rear yard of parcels will be 25 feet, but parcels of abutting existing Sierra Sands parcels will be having a 60 feet required setback side and rear. There will be also a building height limit. Only single-story residence will be allowed, and all accessory buildings only will have a 22 feet maximum height, excluding the parcel that will remain 5 acres. That parcel, the height limit will be 30 feet. This is an aerial view showing the subject properties. This is a view looking south at Avenue 5E from north of County 15th Street as you approach. Looking south at Avenue 5E from County 15th Street. Looking west at County 15th Street from Avenue 5E. Now looking south at Sierra Sands Avenue from County 15th Street. Looking east at the gravel axis from Sierra Sands Avenue. Looking northeast at subject parcel 16, with the only building in the area of those subject parcels. This is a view looking northeast from within the site. East, southeast. Now looking north from the middle of the site. Now south. Now looking north from within the site on the southern side of the subject properties. Now looking north at Avenue 5E from County 15.5 Street. And looking west at County 15.5 Street. Staff received comments from MCIS not objecting this request, and also comments from Arizona Game and Fish Department. Staff also received a petition with 32 signatures in opposition to the request. Out of those 32 signatures, 24 are within the zoning area. 8 duplicates. The amount of opposition triggers a supermajority vote by the Board of Supervisors. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of rezoning case 21-18. Staff concurs with that recommendation, subject to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of approval by the board, the owner or agent shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an infrastructure disclosure statement, record a navigation disclosure statement, record a range disclosure statement, and record a schedule for development disclosure statement. Also, the following is scheduled for development. Within 1 year of board approval, and prior to approval of the land division permits, the owner agent shall apply for and obtain an encroachment permit from the engineering department and shall pave the internal streets as depicted in Exhibit B, rezoning improvements to prevent an increase in dust in the PM10 non-attainment area. Number 2, within 1 year of board approval, the owner's agent shall submit certification from a licensed engineer confirming that the ingress-egress easement referred to in item 1 of the schedule for development was constructed according to Exhibit B. Number 3, within 1 year of board approval and prior to approval of the land division permits, the owner's agent shall construct the west half, a 24-foot wide, of Sierra Sands Avenue from County 15th Street to the Purple Mountain Street widening approximately 1,250 feet. In accordance with Yuma County Public Works Standard number 2070, half width without sidewalks, the developer owner shall submit improvement plans to the engineering department for review and approval. Number 4, within 1 year of board approval, the owner's agent shall submit a traffic study to address the need to construct Avenue 5E due to the additional traffic along Sierra Sands Avenue. Improvements identified by the study shall be constructed by the owner's agent. Number 5, within 1 year of board approval, the property shall be split by means of land division permits in accordance with Section 507 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance. Number 6, within 1 year of board approval, and as part of item 1 above, the owner shall record an ingress-egress easement as depicted in Exhibit B, rezoning improvements. And with that, Mr. Chairman, staff concludes finished presentation.
Are there any questions from the board members? I'm a little disappointed on the outcome of the whole thing. I mean, it came to us as an individual case, and there was so many different parcels out there that we sent it back for a PD so that people had an opportunity, people meaning the residents, had an opportunity to participate in the process. I'm really taken back by the number of people that opposed the process. I know some of the Sierra Sands residents didn't particularly feel they were very inclusive, that they were included in the process, but we certainly didn't move the process too far along the road. But anyway, are there any questions from the board members before we open up the public, before I open up the public hearing?
I have a question for staff. On condition number 4, is that you requesting
Traffic study.
traffic study
On 5E?
on 5E?
Just to address any additional, since there's going to be traffic created on Avenue, Sierra Sands Avenue, this will just address the need for, if that traffic should be also improvement should be done on Avenue 5E due to
Well,
the
it would
increase.
depend on the
Correctly
design.
determined.
So are we designing anything to come in through the back? I mean,
And that's the other question. Why would we want to do another road next to the
range.
to the range? I mean, that just opens it up. I mean, as far as we hear from MCAS all the time, and then we want to have another road. This wasn't a condition on the first time. So why did it change?
With all that is engineering department. The requirement for the traffic study was due to the fact that I believe the current design includes 15 lots, but keep in mind that there's approximately 90 residents that use the Sierra Sands as a way to go to access, I believe, County 15th Street. So the traffic study will analyze the need to for the developer to construct 5E to alleviate that traffic, because we do get a lot of complaints about Sierra Sands, about the excess traffic through there.
Can you put the design back in there? Because I don't remember seeing, okay. So that's the design, oh, no, the one that has the internal roads. Oh, that one has the internal road system. So there's an internal.
Highlighted green, Tony?
Yeah, the highlight, that one. So at this particular time, what we're saying is everybody that wants to get there has only one way to get there, which is through that road and then getting back in there. Oh, you moved it. So if you want a traffic study to indicate the traffic going into 5E, wouldn't this basically indicate that there won't be much traffic unless somebody opens up the back of their property? I mean, they would have a road in front. Why would they need to drive down 5E? Actually, if they don't want to drive in Sierra Sands, is that what you guys are
Actually, the concerns from local existing residents that the excess traffic on Sierra Sands. Now, if the traffic study comes out and it's 5E is required, those lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, half of those lots will access 5E. So if I'm living there, I would rather go to 5E than go through Sierra Sands and go through the other traffic.
Yeah, me too, but I mean.
And that's the reason behind the traffic impact study analysis.
I just find it odd that it wasn't requested the first time. I mean, when this was brought to the board, the first time.
The first time it was only 2 parcels.
Yes.
Yeah, it was only 2 parcels.
But also on the south of that Sierra Sands, there's more houses, and there's going to continue to do more residential, more building towards the west. So, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to ask somebody to do a traffic study and to determine if that road, County 5E, needs to be developed.
It's 5E connecting to anything? If I
5E will connect, I believe there's another road that is paved on the south side of Cerro Sands. So people use that route and then go north on Cerro Sands. And that's the only one that funnels the traffic, which is approximately around 90 lots.
So as we can see in that picture, what you're looking at right now, that's the northern portion, right? The southern portion, there's another paved street below. So how would you, I mean, say the study said that you can, direct traffic or take traffic up Sierra Sands and put it on 5E. How would you connect 5E to the other, to the other parcels? I mean, without the right of way. I mean, is it public right of way?
Actually, we do have 33 feet of right of way along.
So 33 feet up on top and 33 feet on the bottom. Otherwise,
so what we were thinking is if that gets paved, it will connect County 15th Street to this road here. So there you go. So you're going to have access to there, and you're going to have access to here.
I don't know. The people on that road are going to want to.
Who's going to do that other part there?
Oh, probably the developer.
Yeah, who's going to do 5E?
Right.
That one?
No, right. That. Yeah.
The traffic study will say, well, I believe we do have right over here, so it'll be up to the developer.
Oh, so you want the developer to do that part also, but it's only, you just said there was only so many lots along 5E, but that lot doesn't include
the one at the end.
The developer right now, the one at the end.
That's correct, and we look at this as a big project. Like normally, if this came in as a subdivision, we would treat it the same way. Because you're looking at
you create a traffic study. The traffic study needs to indicate there's enough traffic for that road to be paved. Half of that road anyway, because you can't ask for a full road.
Oh no, it's not going to be a
when
full.
There's nothing in the other side.
And there never will be.
Well, yeah, with the range being in the other side, that's pretty difficult to believe. I don't know what the traffic study will indicate, but obviously the neighborhood must be concerned about all the traffic that it would generate inside the neighborhood. So, it's a good idea to keep to keep our options open. Okay, well, that's a question. You had a question. Anybody else has a question before I open up the public hearing? No, at least I need to open up the public hearing to allow you to come in.
Can I just make a quick comment about 5E?
No, wait until we open the public hearing. You can make the comment for the record. So I'm hereby opening the public hearing. Now, Liz, can you come over? I mean, you just needed to wait 1 second, now. All right. So your name, and I try to take this in the order they come in, and Mr. Bird came in first, but
No,
it's
I just
okay.
wanted to make a quick point while this is fresh in people's minds. Thank you, Chairman Reyes. I'm Elise Larson, 4887 East.
Mask off so we can hear you. It's muffled.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Elise Larson, 4887 East County 15th Street. And I just wanted to point out about 5E. Right now, there's a number of people who drive from homes down here. They drive along there anyway. And there's a lot of people who drive off-road vehicles up and down here. And the residents here, if this is built, we suspect that people might just drive out the back. So I'm just bringing to your attention, there's already traffic on this road which kicks up a lot of dust, and we anticipate that would increase.
Your mask is on the ground, at least. I mean, you're the one. You dual mask. All right, just so you pick it up. It's fine, it's fine. All right, so your point is that there's already traffic on that road.
Well, not to the level of South Sierra Sands, obviously. I'm just saying people drive that right now.
All right.
Again, I think there's a number of houses down there.
Use it to get
They just Yahoo around on there anyway, and we suspect that people would drive out the back of this PD, the ones that border there. They'll just drive out directly on there, unpaved, kicking up a bunch of dust.
All right.
So
okay, good. I'm going to open up. I did open up the public hearing. At least just took some time to talk, but she'll be given other times to make comments. But I have Mr. Douglas Bird, who came in first before anyone else. Would you like to make a comment?
Sure. Okay, my name's Douglas Bird. I live at 15373 South Sierra Sands Avenue. A lot of things going through my mind, a lot of emotions, as you have heard about and have seen from the residents that will be directly affected by this project. I, along with you, Chairman, was very disappointed in the amount of feedback or cooperation or input that we were allowed to give or was solicited or whatever to the developers. When I left this meeting a couple months ago, that was my impression, is that we were going to somehow sit down and gather around and figure this out, something that would be, work for everyone. But that did not happen. I want to make that perfectly clear. That did not happen. Now, you might hear 28 different reasons why that didn't happen, but the fact of the matter is it didn't happen. Okay, so there was no input from the citizens that are potentially be directly impacted by this. Okay, the next thing is I'm a little disappointed up there. They said they did not receive any comments from the Marine Air Base. Well, I personally sat in a planning and zoning meeting where a gentleman from the Marine Air Base stood right before the zoning commission and said that, quote, they cannot support this type of development. It increases the density too much. So I want to dispute that, just so you understand that you have the Marine Air Base not supporting this. And then I also want to bring out that there's 9% of the people directly impacted by this are for it. And I personally was responsible for finding out that 75% of the people that will be directly impacted by this, 75% are not for this project. Now, as elected officials, I'm hoping that will make some sort of impact. Now, the next item I want to bring up is a lot of you have really strong beliefs about property rights. The owner's property rights rules 99% of the time. And, to be honest with you, I probably go along with that line of thinking myself. However, there's always exceptions to that. There's been far out examples brought up in this meeting about pig farms and so forth. Well, what if I wanted to use my property that I own and do something outrageous like a landfill? You guys, you Board of Supervisors, would absolutely tell me no way. But that's my property. Why can't I? You would say, sorry, that is not allowed. So somehow, some way, there's decisions that are made or thinking that is made that allows or does not allow property rights, because there has to be some order to it, right? Well, I go back to what was originally, the golf course that's set up as 10-acre parcels. Then it was changed to 5-acre parcels. Why isn't one of those property rights still available? Because I'll tell you, in talking with the community, how much time do I have?
Well, you're supposed to have 3 minutes, but you can
Okay.
continue. Just as long
In
as
talking with the community,
you yourself.
there's been many reasons why they oppose. Okay, 75% of the people, and there's probably just as many reasons why some people feel that there's going to be water issues, with punching all those different wells in the aquifer. Some people think that there's traffic going to be problems, especially those that live right where the road will feed out onto Sierra Sands. Some people feel that during the development, there will be dust storms created. All right, all these are some people feel their views will be disrupted. And all these reasons are valid. And I propose that there's one solution that would alleviate all of those. And it's density. Go back to what it was originally approved to, 5-acre lots. The community does not oppose the development of this land. We just oppose the density that will come with this proposal. So we don't disagree with persons' rights to do what they wish with their property, as long as it's done within reason. Now, they will argue that they have gave concession after concession after concession after concession. Well, with whose input? It wasn't any of the citizens. Now, I also wanted to bring up one last thing here. On the docket here on number 1, it says, agent for Sunderman Investments, LLC. C&G Farms Incorporated. George Amaral Ranches Incorporated. Then we have one individual, the Balukas. And then X Squared or X2 Properties, LLC. Corporations, entities that are, in it to make money. And I don't try and take anyone's opportunity to make money. However, again, we have limitations on who it affects. What happens when people are trying to make their money? In this case,
Don't
sorry.
get repetitive. I think you're making your point. You made it a couple of times already.
Okay.
I know you don't have time.
Let me just
but
finish.
there are other people.
In this case, it's affecting 75% of the people that are directly affected by this.
Okay.
Elected officials, remember, 75% are opposed to this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. I know I have a couple of more speaker forms. Elise, you would be, Elise and Tim. I know Tim Lasota, it sounds like an attorney to me. So, Tim, you want to come first, and maybe you will be able to, just remember, don't repeat everything.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors. And I am Timothy Lasota, 2198 East Camelback Road in Phoenix. This is an example where the opinion of the neighbors is not completely monolithic. And I'm here on behalf of Elise Larson, who actually won't need to speak again, I don't think. Eric Power is also here in the audience. But in terms of the process, I think it worked a little backwards. I think it would have been better had it sort of gone through another round with the neighbors prior to resubmission of the application. But it's just, everybody has to, things are constantly moving in this world. And certainly in the opinion of my clients is, there were some significant concessions. The end product has been better than it started out. And we view it as, there's been some compromises made. I think the biggest issue from my client's standpoint is that they expect this to hold for a significant portion of time. Obviously, anybody can come back tomorrow and ask for another zoning change, and they have to talk this body into giving it to them. There's a public process and everything, and yet the neighbors, we think, have participated in the process. It has worked a little backwards, and yet I think in fairness it has to be said that there were some significant movement on the part of the applicant, which we're happy for. But I think moving forward, I think that this is, the density is a tough pill to swallow. But, I think it ended up at 2.73 acres per house. I think one part it says 2.73 acres or houses per acre, but that's obviously a mistake that I think is clear in the documents. It is 2.73 acres per dwelling. So I think all those things need to be considered, and I'm not really up here to say yay or nay, but I think that the one thing that I think everybody would agree on from our side of it, so to speak, is that we're hoping that this end process does hold for an appreciable period of time. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I know some of the members that, the Planning Commission, I think, did push the applicant. I think some of the members pushed the applicant a little bit to engage. Didn't necessarily work maybe in the perfect order, but that's appreciated as well. And obviously the whole process where it ended up. So happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Osoda. I think that you hit the nail on the head, and the fact that from the beginning we wanted the neighborhood engaged in the process, because obviously it's where they live and it's what they like to see. We have a tough job, and I think we're going to get to it sometime soon. But at this particular time, we appreciate your comments, and we appreciate anybody commenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Supervisor
Mr.
Lyons.
Soto, did you receive any answers to the questions that you had posed last week as far as the assurance of this being binding over a period of time?
Actually, Mr. Lyons, not to those specific ones, and that was a little bit disappointing. I think that as I've studied this, I think that there's some things that are bound here by the CC&Rs, and some things that obviously are bound in zoning, but the CC&Rs only bind the people who sign the CC&Rs, so it's kind of two different things. We would have loved to be a third-party beneficiary specifically named in the CC&Rs. There's probably an argument that we already are, but I think looking at it overall is I think I think these things are just, generally speaking, I think they're difficult it would be difficult for any applicant to come back a few months later and say, oh shoot, I got it wrong. I really need 10 dwellings, not 8. So I think that whereas you could change it again tomorrow or after the process is concluded, I think it did end up in a decent spot. We would have sure liked a few extra small things, but you can't get everything. And if it went a little bit longer, I think we could probably get hone it. There were even some issues that I thought they might be interested in, because I think that they could have improved it even from their own standpoint. But answer's no. Long answer. Sorry. That's what you get for asking me a question.
No, but I think the answer lies more with us than with the applicants or anyone else. And I'm making this statement right off. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen because it's supermajority vote and it'll take 4 votes. But I can tell you what, if the first time it came to us, it wasn't right. The second time it may not be totally right, but there won't be a third time from my perspective. I mean, that's not an assurance there. I mean, like a written assurance, but we certainly hold here that we take into account a lot what the neighborhood has to say. And I think that was part of why we decided to postpone it the first time. I don't know whether postponing the second time will improve it that much, but I certainly would, look into it. But I really, ultimately it is in my district, and I certainly wouldn't want to see it again in smaller pieces or changing what took a long time. And it's taken some time. It may not be a long time in terms of what was accomplished, but it was a long time in terms of what would have happened individually if it had come to us individually, because I think we made it clear, we're not going to take this individually. We're not going to piece it out and parcel it out individually. It has to come as one single PD, because we don't want to get the neighborhood through this process over and over again. That's just not in my book. Thank you, Mr. Lasoto.
I really appreciate your comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public who wants to address the board before we take it out of public hearing and bring it back to the board?
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, or Chairman of the board. I'm Kevin Dahl with Dahl Robbins and Associates, 1560 South Fifth Avenue. So yeah, we've gone through a long process here. Maybe not everybody's happy. We're not happy. Neighbor's not happy. But in the end, we got what we got. And to answer the question on density, you can't change density. Density is a comprehensive plan. It's governed by the comprehensive plan. So the two acre minimum dictates that this can't be changed again in the future. When all these splits are made, it's locked in. And after what we went through, we won't try it again. Guarantee you that. So the only thing we're in complete agreement with the conditions of approval, except number 4 of the schedule for development. This is 15 lots. And by the own county standards, 15 lots doesn't even warrant a study. And we don't look at the surrounding lots, we look at our development. That's what drives a study. This is like a neighborhood planted in an existing development. That's just what it is. And just so you all are aware, the chairman probably is aware, 2 previous occasions, the Board of Supervisors approved as a variance or modification not to build 5E. Back in 1998 and back in 2007 about. This board, this body voted to not build 5E. So we're at a loss to do a study.
Okay, I mean, look, if I mean, sometimes it's just a little redundant. The question is a little redundant, but if you feel that it won't have any impact, why are you opposed to it?
So Mr. Chairman, that comes with a price tag.
Yeah, well,
A study comes with a price tag, and I believe the engineering department had mentioned the price tag, which we don't really want to pay when we know that the outcome is going to be zero.
Okay.
And again, I don't have a stronger argument than that 2 other times this body, this board voted to.
It wasn't the same members, I
No,
remember,
but it's the body.
I don't even remember. I don't think I was here the first time either, but that's been a long time.
With that.
But I do understand what you're saying. You're saying, why spend the money if you know the result? I'm just saying that if you know the result, sometimes the cost, I know the cost. I've done them before. So there's always that.
Mr. Chairman, you're never 100% sure, right?
Right, and that's why you do them, right?
So that's why you don't do it.
Because you don't know the outcome?
So I'm pretty confident in the outcome, but it's going to cost money.
And that's probably the best answer, is that it's going to cost money. That may be used for a better thing.
Mr. Chairman and the board, you've got a midsection line road being completed as part of this process for, this referenced 80 homes plus 15, 100 homes, 95 homes. That's not even going to touch it. So
right.
With that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dahl. Anybody else?
Can I just say one more thing?
Before, no, wait, just a moment. The gentleman stood up, so I guess he wants to say something, and then, yes, Mr. Bird, you can close up.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, the board. Jerry Malukas, Baliukas, 4474 West 16th Street. Mr. Chairman, you're probably the last one that was here from the beginning of this development. So without wasting too much time, I'm going to give everybody else, the other 4 members of the Board of Supervisors, a little Reader's Digest version. They probably heard some of this. 2004, my wife and I started looking for a piece of property to retire in. We looked all over town, couldn't find anything that suited us. This became obvious that this was going to become available. Talked with the developer, didn't know him, talked with the residents in the area, of some of which I knew. And in 2005, the property became available. Went to several real estate brokers in Yuma County, all 3 of which now are still prominent members in Yuma County as brokers with good reputations. Every one of them said, it's a good deal, property's going great, go for it. We went for it, and within about the 2008 time hit, and we went through the developer, we went to an architect, well-known architect, set up house plans, we've modified them twice. Since the development originally fell apart, I have updated the plans twice, hoping that this would come out. When that all happened in 2008, and then a little bit later on, unfortunate to say, my wife got ill and she passed. And during the process, one of the things she talked about was, please don't give up on this development. Please wait, it will work out. So I updated the house plans once again, hoping that this development would work out. I was physically present or responded to every reversion hearing that came up on this development, every single one of them. There was nobody else but me. I went to the other members, the other owners of the property at the time, many of which who have changed. In fact, almost all of them have changed. I got no response. Nobody else wanted to fork up resources to finish this development or have it planned out because it was too expensive. So as I went through that process and realized that this was not going to happen, I waited it out and went to every reversion hearing and hoped that I could get new owners of the property to coincide with me to finish the development. That never happened. So we went through I waited it out a little bit longer and went to this last reversion hearing. And Mr. Chairman, I know in January your very words were, as this reversion happened, that possibly this will give you a path forward. Those were your words, sir. Within 2 weeks, it popped up with a developer and other property owners who I'd never known before. And I must say, I do not know the developer. I do not know the other property owners. They're not members of my family. I've never had anything to do with them. I don't have any business relationship with any of them. I've been a resident here in Yuma County since 1982. I have no Klaus family ties. I've never been to a fast food restaurant with any of them. All I know is this opportunity came forward. I worked with them, worked through the process, the initial process, and we went to the plan development process and listened to the concessions they made, and they're significant concessions that they have made for this PD to happen. And how much of my property control do you want to give to the local residents? How much of my 5th and 14th Amendment rights do I not obtain by giving more and more control of my property to local residents? The effort has been made. The effort has been made in good conscience and in good faith to come up with a development that coincides with everybody's needs within reason. Everybody's going to be disappointed, but this is the only path forward. And if this path forward does not happen, and if this is turned down, then I have to ask you, what crime did I commit? Why am I denied these rights? Why am I being denied a development that I've been waiting for since 2005? With good faith, good money, going through the process, trying to realize everything that I possibly could to make this happen within the body of government that we are given. And by the way, a majority doesn't rule. It's called a constitutional republic. The majority doesn't always rule. The 51% does not get to take away the rights of the 49%. John Adams' very words. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Any questions for me?
No, thank you. Thank you for your patience. I mean, it's taken a long time. I have seen you a few times.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bird, you may want to.
All I was going to add.
No, you
is
got to
that
step up to the podium because you.
All I was
you
going to
can't
add
take-
is this board, as the other gentleman stated, approved this to be 5-acre lots. This very board. I need to reiterate, this Board of Supervisors approved, now maybe not you individuals, but I'm sure you were there, approved 5-acre lots. And that's what Mr. Balukas,
It's referring to.
bought into, so.
Thank you. Well, anyone else? I'm going to close the public hearing and get it back to discussion by the board. Okay, guys? I mean, it's got to come back. You guys have heard this case more than once now. I think that personally, it's been one of the most difficult cases for me to deal with because, everybody knows, and everybody knows that at least I am always been an advocate of property rights, and I've tried to do as much as possible to balance it with developers. And I think we've been somewhat successful, if not successful enough, to prove that point. This is one of the toughest cases that I've had to deal with, mainly because the neighborhood got basically taken by a prior developer that promised you something he didn't deliver. But we ended up with this problem, and I think that we've tried as much as possible to give everybody the time and the space to work something out. Normally, this kind of situations don't end up with a winner and a loser. They end up with people who negotiating it to terms. And that's what's in front of us, a situation that's difficult. I understand. I'm a little disappointed that the majority of the neighborhood doesn't feel comfortable with the agreement, but it is what it is, and it's in front of us, and a decision needs to be made, and I hope everybody can live with whatever the decision is at the end. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question for staff on one, and it's not really pertaining to the division. Looking at the comments, and this is just something that was brought up from the last meeting, I believe, with Arizona Game and Fish. I noticed they had comments. So anytime Game and Fish does something on a zoning, is it comments or is it conditions that we're looking for? I'm just looking for clarification on that.
Mr. Chairman, Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. So in the recent past, we have started to receive additional comments or more comments from different agencies. And we have had instances where some staff reports, staff incorporates the comments as conditions. However, based on input that we have been receiving, staff will now start including just comments or the comments that were received from the agencies and it would be up to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the board to include them as conditions for future cases.
Right. I think I asked, excuse me for a minute, but I think I asked particularly why we were asking, and the reason was that they're part of the general plan, and they're the way it's set up. In other words, you do send requests for comments for everyone. And now it's getting a little busier, you're getting comments back. So the question, I suppose, from supervisor is, what triggers a decision to change some comment made by one of the regulatory agencies into a condition? And your answer is that will be decided by the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately by us, because the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends conditions, and at the end, we may get a decision whether it stays or not. And I suppose it will be depending on the comment that we create a condition. Now, I've always been told by the attorneys not to create conditional zonings or try to avoid creating conditional zonings, especially when the condition is something that the developer cannot control. So that's still going to be sort of like the rule for my part. Let's not create conditions that make the zoning very difficult to accomplish because they're not under the control of the developer. But there are still some conditions, abrogation statements, and so forth that the board over time has decided are important enough to be included as conditions every time, such as advising the military. Those kind of things have become conditional because of the airport and protecting, trying to avoid encroachment. Those type of things have become a navigation or an agricultural disclosure. Those things are just made to make sure that when the rezoning gets recorded, everybody knows about it and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. One of them is easy. A developer's what's it called? A plan. A plan. So anyway, I think the answer to your question is they don't become conditions until we say that they're conditions. Before that, they're recommendations, and it's a decision made by the planning and zoning first to recommend and for the board to actually create the condition.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. The information, the staff reports, even if it's sent to the Planning and Zoning Commission as a condition, keep in mind that it's a staff recommendation. The Planning Commission and the board do have the option of requiring or not requiring those conditions recommended by staff.
I was talking about the schedule for development, and I couldn't come up with the right term.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor, Ryan?
What's the genesis for your recommendations? What are they based in?
Mr. Chairman, our recommendations are based on information in the comprehensive plan, the policies, priorities, and actions of the comprehensive plan.
All right. Did that answer all your questions? Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove the Plan D development.
I'll make the motion to approve with the exception of recommendation number 4.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the case as approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission with the exception of number 4, condition number 4, which it would be the traffic study, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. All right. Is there any more comments? Remember, this is going to take an individual vote because it requires a 4-vote majority. So, Desiree, please.
Supervisor Lyons?
Aye.
Supervisor Pancrazy?
Aye.
Supervisor Porches?
Aye.
Supervisor Simmons?
Aye.
Chairman Reyes?
Well, this is a painful one, but I think it's already been decided. There's a 4-vote to go ahead. And I do, before I vote, want to make sure that I thank everybody involved. Although you may not have gotten what you actually wanted, you did move the process forward. And I think the neighborhood is going to be better off for it because of the contributions that you guys made and the concessions the developer made. I hope Mr. Pelucas can get his house built and in order. So I vote aye.
The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. And again, difficult one, but thank you very much for all your participation in the process. So number 2, Development Service Planning and Zoning Division will continue with the public hearing on rezoning case number 21. 5-minute break. We'll take a 5-minute break. lights up when it's ready. Ready? Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going back into regular session, and we have item number 2 on the planning and zoning agenda, and it's public hearing and rezoning case number 2109, JP Mahone, agent for Kathleen and Brian Habit, requested rezoning of parcel 7,020 square feet in size from rural acre 20-acre minimum to planned development PD. Assessors parcel number 459-50-078 located at 103,000, oh, wait a minute, it's 10,343 East North Martinez Lake Road, Yuma, Arizona. This is a continuance from August the 2nd, 2021. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. And the intent of this plan development is to allow the continued use and expansion of the residential use. This is the vicinity map showing parcel crosshatch. And as we can see here, surrounding the property, everything is zoned PD with the exception of several parcels here that are shown zone RA20. The development is developed with site-built homes surrounding the property. There's a pre-ordinance non-conforming RV park to the north, and there's some older cabin sites also.
Right.
This is an aerial imagery that shows the existing development. As you can see, newer homes with a mixture of RVs and older cabin sites. This is the view looking south at the subject property as it currently sits. This is looking north from the subject property, looking west from the subject property, an older cabin site, looking east from the subject property, one of the new homes. Staff received a petition signed by we received a new petition. We have a total of 9 people in opposition to this proposal, and we have not received any comments from the general public, from public agencies. The petition with 11 property owners signed does not trigger a supermajority vote. And staff is recommending approval of this rezoning case with the following performance condition. Within 60 days of approval by the board, that the owner agent provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver. And this is the map that shows in red the amount of people in opposition. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Right. Any questions for staff? I'm going to open it up to the public for public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that wants to address the board on this particular issue? For or against?
Good morning, Barry Olson, 101 East 2nd Street in Yuma. I represent the 2 neighboring property owners on the map, which would be, the clicker might work.
There you go.
Would be a 79 and the one just to right there. Could you go back to the aerial photograph? Before I address the aerial photograph, I filed an objection or provided the county with an objection. I wanted to make certain that all the board members had seen the objection letter that I'd submitted to the county. Okay.
I see it with all the Karen's names on it.
Yes, and there are a number of other individuals who have filed objections, but just to give you a little history on this, is this plan development was put together by the Guth family and Bruce Jacobson several years ago and was approved by the board. There were several owners, including Abbott, that he voluntarily elected not to participate. They decided to retain their RA20 zoning. And you'll see, if you look at this cove here, including where the Abbotts are at, that all the neighbors have sort of developed in a harmonious way. And let me show you what the problem with the Abbott properties. I'll walk up and point to it. Okay. And just to get it on the record is Abbott's proposing, what happened here, and you've seen it in the letter, is we started off with the variance request that was denied by the Board of Adjustment. Went to the Superior Court upheld the Board of Adjustment. After that, Abbott obtained building permits from the county to expand into the area that I circled, out past where everybody had developed.
Oh, I see.
And so that's the concern is well, wait a minute. And then when the Abbotts had applied for the variance, the garage that they were proposing, they call it a garage. It's not a garage. It's a disguised apartment. It has everything in it but a kitchen. But it was farther back, and I'll point to what the edge of the prior apartment or garage was. After the variance was denied, Abbott obtained building permits to expand out past down, and they've already started constructing pylons. The minute my clients noticed that, we notified the county, hey, this is an impermissible expansion of a non-conforming use, because the RA20 lot obviously is not 20 acres, it's a non-conforming lot. And Arizona law has specific restrictions on what you can do with a non-conforming lot, and the county's zoning ordinance addresses that as well. And what the Abbotts were proposing or are proposing is 3 times the existing size of their cabin, expanding out into the sight line of the neighbors. And so they started constructing pylons and so forth, ended up in the Superior Court, took a while, ended up with Judge Kenworthy in a decision in December that determined what the Abbotts were doing violated Arizona law, the county ordinance, and basically revoked the permits at that hearing. And so what we have here is a case, unlike the prior case you had with Sierra Sands, where the owner or the developer's coming and saying, hey, we want to do something, we're asking you to give us permission to proceed forward with this project. This is the opposite case, and once in a while the board gets them, is where somebody has gotten themselves into a pickle and they're now asking the board to bail them out. And again, this has been hotly litigated for the last several years with the Superior Court ruling in favor of the neighbors. Now Abbott, to fix the problem with staff support, is proposing to continue forward with what they started that was not in conformance with state and local law, and are asking you to essentially rubber stamp it, give them the PD zoning. If the Abbotts wanted a PD zoning, they should have participated when all the other neighbors did so and developed that area out there. Now they want to come in and essentially stick a square peg in a round hole. And this is what's got the neighbors upset, because they're like, wait a minute. What also is problematic is Abbott has had very little communication with the neighbors. We've suggested that if the county's considering the PD request that they're have pending before the county, that there be some meeting with the staff, the neighbors, and so forth to see if we could come up with the compromise that works with the PD zoning and is in the spirit of the neighborhood. And that basically is a summary of several years of litigation and other issues between the Abbotts and the neighbors out at Martinez Lake. And it's an unfortunate situation, but it's a situation that Abbott created of their own accord by ignoring court orders, ignoring letters I had written to the county and to the Abbott stating you can't do this, and it's substantiated by the courts. If you have any questions or points, I'd be more than glad to address them. I realize that's a succinct summary of a lot that's gone on at this portion of Martinez Lake.
Why is he, well, I mean, the question I would have is he trying to build something below and this will allow him to, or is he just trying to repair a non-conforming use?
No, what he's trying to do, Supervisor Reyes, is what has started to be constructed down below at the river are pylons that go up. And the pylons are to support the garage, or it's called the garage, I'll call it the apartment, that's basically been slid out in front of everybody else. So he's trying to basically go all the way out with these pylons and construct this structure. And that basically that structure is in line with what everybody else has developed out there. And you can see when you're purchasing lots out at the lake, you develop and this is a prime example of it. It's like, okay, the neighbors worked with each other, came up so nobody's views were blocked, and Abbott, for reasons unknown to us, has elected to change his plans, slide his building forward after the original objection and success in getting the Board of Adjustment to deny his variance request.
Now, couldn't this issue be addressed by the staff when an application is made for additional, structures? I mean, you can only have one structure in that 7,000 square foot parcel. I mean, even if you reduce it to that, wouldn't the county staff be able to just simply say, okay, well, the structure covers enough I mean, there's the footprint there, what the issue is right now? I mean, because you can't build more, or is it that he tried to do something he couldn't get away with, so now he's trying to go work at it another way?
Mr. Chairman, under the current zoning district, as Mr. Olson mentioned, it is currently zone RA20. It is a pre-ordinance legal non-conforming zoning, which allows the property owner to develop the property to build a home. The property owner already has a home on it. Any improvements to the property would require that they adhere to the RA setback requirements, which are currently not being able to, using the same footprint of the existing legal pre-ordinance non-conforming structure, and setbacks to property lines would be at 10% of the width of the lot. The intent under the PD is to be able to develop the property similar to what the Martinez Lake PD residents have, with more stricter setbacks.
Yeah.
So it's not really any different from the Martinez Lake PD. It's actually a mimic of the Martinez Lake Plan development. So it is something that we would look at when permits are applied for improving this property. Yes.
Is this then a matter of trust? They just simply don't trust him to do the right thing, or is that? I mean, Maggie's behind you, Barry. So,
Well,
Mr. Olson, I know you want to answer that one probably, but I don't know what she's trying to tell us. But what is it?
Mr. Chairman, Maggie Castro, Planning and Zoning Director. The problem arose with the structure that was permitted for the Abbotts a couple years ago. That is, the adjacent property owners, surrounding property owners filed an action in court. There was a decision by the judge specifically for this case and the structure that was built. The structure that was built was larger in size and square footage than the existing home on the subject property. So the zoning ordinance does not have a size limitation for accessory structures. It doesn't specify that an accessory structure has to be smaller than the principal structure on the property. Staff did approve the permit for Mr. Abbott or the Abbotts. However, the action was challenged in court.
Okay. Mr. Olson?
It is a trust issue, Supervisor Reyes, and here's why. Because the existing home that's there is basically 900 square feet. What was proposed is, I think, about it's over 2,500 square feet. And so it's 2 stories and it's called a garage. And so when you have a non-conforming use, if this was a case where, okay, we're just going to put a small garage that basically is about the size of the house and it didn't have any issues with the neighbors, we wouldn't be here. But under the RA20 zoning, you can have a garage without having to get any type of zoning clarification. And that's been the big fight where this is an abuse of the zoning code. In other words, taking what's supposed to be a garage and putting in ceiling fans, air conditioning, it has, basically, the easiest way to describe it is 2 stories. The second story has everything in it but a stove. And the reason for that is if you put in a stove by ordinance, then it's called an accessory structure, requires a special use permit. But to get around that, they basically say, well, we're not going to put in a stove. But if they're like me, you don't need a stove, you just need a microwave, which does, if you have a microwave, it tells you about my cooking ability. If you have a microwave, then that doesn't qualify. You can still call it a garage. And so you can kind of see the trust factor is, wait a minute, this isn't a garage.
So what has happened to the structure? Is it still there? Is it on the court order to be torn down, or what's going on?
Mr. Chairman, the permit was approved. However, after the court order, the court judgment, the permit was not I believe it was issued, but the applicant did not construct that.
So how is not constructing that
Let me,
conforms with?
So the permit expired.
well,
Sorry.
Okay.
let me clarify what exactly happened is the permits were issued, we objected, then Abbott started construction of the pylons down below while the court case was pending. Then once the court case came out in the decision, that's when they stopped. Why they started construction is a problem in itself, because you would think if there's a lawsuit pending, why would you start construction of something that you know is going to be litigated?
So let me just sort of get to the crux of the thing. If Mr. Abbott wanted to build another structure that fit, it wouldn't be able to, based on the zoning that he has right now. I mean, if he was to raise that property and build another one, would he be able to do it under the current zoning that he has already?
Under the current, Mr. Chairman, under the current RA 20,
Mhm.
we would have to look at the proposal, and based on the court order, if a garage is being proposed with, let's say, storage, not living space, the staff will be able to issue a permit as long as setbacks are adhered to.
Maybe I didn't clear that
Mr.
out.
Chairman, I think I know what you asked. So if the existing structure or structures on that property were to be demolished, then they could build another structure to replace that structure, as long as it complies with the rural area 20-acre minimum zoning district, the use. So there's a misconception as to whether the structure is a non-conforming structure. The parcel is non-conforming. It does not conform to the minimum parcel size of the zoning district. The structure is a conforming structure, the existing structure. It is a site-built home. The RA zoning district allows site-built homes in the RA 20 district.
Right, so if Mr. Abbott wanted to build something at the standards that everybody else is around it, he could do so as long as he removed his old building and replaced it with a new one that would look like that. Can he do that?
Mr. Chairman, he would have to comply with the setback requirements for a non-conforming lot.
Which would be tough, according to that aerial picture. But, I mean,
This
everybody
current
else can
structure
put
does
them.
have non-conforming structures on the west side. The setback on the east side would be something that,
And that's why there was a PD, right? Because there were some non-conforming sites already. The PD would cover that and make that a conforming use, if nothing else, which is what he's supposedly trying to do right now, bring it into a conforming use. But he's developed a relationship with the neighborhood, to say the least, that is not very trusting. And the neighbors are concerned that what he would do is build something that would just be not just an eyesore, but actually block the view of the neighbors around
All
it.
the other neighbors.
Is that more or less what?
I can't speak to
Oh, I can't
the
speak to
neighbors.
that. All right, okay. Well, Mr. Olson has spoken for them, so let me just
you.
hear from the other side, if there is another side.
There is.
There is? Okay, well, come forth.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. My name is JP Mann. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Abbott's rezoning case 2109. First of all, I want to thank staff at DDS. We worked really closely with staff to formulate a plan that was going to work, that would work for this property. Because of the non-conforming status, there are some very limiting setbacks. Mr. Olson gave some of the history about the plan development, and it's correct. There was, the owners of the whole thing went around and asked people to be involved in it years ago. Ownership interests have changed in this, in this property since then. They had a non-conforming lot. They had the ability to continue using the house. Actually had their own septic and well system. Since then, the kind of majority ownership in the property has changed. They've also bought in, paid their impact fees for the, for the planned development, for the road maintenance, and to be part of the sewer system out there. The planned development came out of some necessity. It does have RA 20 setbacks. It's, it's very challenging. There's interpretations that are challenging. So the Abbotts went to the county, worked with county staff, went to a local engineer to get the building plans developed. We heard about those building plans. They thought they did everything right. Worked with the county, worked with the local engineer to get the plans developed. those, those plans are gone. They were revoked. But we came forward to set a standard and work with the community. Talked about a view and nuisance. The existing height limitation in that zoning district is 60 feet. We're trying to work and be part of, harmonious part of development out there, because they could raise that cabinet, build a 60-foot structure with RA zoning that would be out of content. We're actually giving property rights away, trying to be in conformance with this. The setback limitations make it a challenge. You need to kind of get a clean slate to figure out exactly, okay, what can be developed, because spent thousands of dollars on engineering fees to develop a plan of a building that was since revoked. So setting those parameters is essential to figure out something to move forward. I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have also.
Any questions? He's in your district. Have any questions?
No, just like I said, I was going to ask Maggie, she came back up. So if we change the zoning, they still have to come and get permits from the county for whatever they're going to do. It doesn't just give them a blank slate to build whatever. It still has to come to the county for approval.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the intent is to rezone the property to PD, and the development standards are similar to what the Martinez Lake Resort PD requires for setbacks and maximum height, for example. So yes, as long as, if the zoning is approved today, the property owner could come back and apply for permits as long as they're in compliance with the PD requirements.
Mr. Chair, okay, Mr. Chair and Maggie, so what they're asking for now is to go from a RA20 to a PD. And okay, that's all they're asking for right now. And the reasoning behind it is an RA20 has a huge setback situation, and a PD doesn't have that mandatory setback, correct?
Mr. Chairman, yes, the requirements for setbacks in the RA20 zoning district are limit the ability to construct a structure on this property. It has more limitations.
Okay.
The applicant is proposing setbacks which are similar to the Martinez Lake Resort PD.
Which is what all the others are built to.
The properties that, yes, signed on to the PD, yes.
Originally, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Supervisor
How
Lyon?
many properties surrounding this have that other zoning that they're asking for?
Mr. Chairman, I'll put the map up. There we go. There's four other properties, 5.
That don't have the PD
They
zoning.
don't have. So he's just looking to bring it into compliance.
Yeah.
Or
Right,
similar.
well, into PD.
Yeah, into PD.
That's all he's asking for now.
Right. When I read that, that summary, there was some place in there where there was some improvements that were developed by the PD around it. Now, is he still refusing to pay his share?
No,
He's already paid his share?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that the agent stated that they have signed on to the improvement district and have paid the fees required for the, to hook up to sewer and the maintenance fees for the
So
streets.
lucky to have Martinez Lake in your hands. All right. Any other questions? Anything else? You already have the agent here. Does anybody else?
Can we put the aerial back up again? I have a solution. I understand that, again.
You understand the dilemma we're in?
Yeah, I get it. And so, but you can understand also the neighbors is, okay, we developed based on the PD. We participated. In other words, they did everything they were supposed to do and they did it right. So my suggestion would be just, maybe if you're going to approve a PD, is you set the rear line setback from the river so that it's harmonious with all of this right here so that you don't have a view issue. If you do that, that's a fair compromise. They get the setbacks on the side and the front, and it resolves the issue in the back. They've got a nice, you can see that gives them the same building envelope that everybody else does. And you can see where, barely on there, where everyone else has basically not gone down into that embankment that goes down into the lake.
Now, can we do that on a PD? Because a PD allows certain things that are not allowed under the type of
They're
zoning.
consulting.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Oh,
consulting.
sidebar. Yeah, I mean, Maggie.
Mr. Chairman, any changes to the proposed PD that is before you today would have to go back to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Why did you conduct one? The moment you conducted a sidebar, I knew we were in trouble.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
thought
that's the same thing that applied to the previous rezoning case?
We know. Just trying to get one over the attorney, but you guys work too much together. Obviously, the intent, as I see it here, is for us to try to allow some individual right to the property owner so they can do something with that property. Secondary to that is obviously the intent of the original PD, which was to create a situation where everybody would have views and everybody would be in conformance with, the overall plan. Obviously, if we just give a PD without any particular restrictions, which I'm now finding out you can't, unless we send it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'll forward this to you, and I don't know what the rest of the supervisor would be. I would be in agreement to let him build something in there. I think this is right in the property. You may want to change that. Although I would also say that in this particular case, there is a history that Mr. Abbott hasn't really delivered on what, or at least that he hasn't been willing to participate in the original design of the PD. So I'd be more than willing to send it back to Planning and Zoning and get something that we could actually work with and approve. Otherwise, we're just, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the vote would be, but if we take a vote, this is over. This won't be, you need to, you will have to make a new application if you want to do that, and that would take a lot longer than sending it back to Planning and Zoning and asking them for a recommendation. Although I always have trouble with the attorney saying, send it back so we can get another recommendation, because they don't make the decision anyway. So, but that's neither here nor there. I think that what we're trying to do here is find a compromise that allows the Abbotts to go ahead and do what they want to do. They may have to wait a little longer. I don't know. Maybe the supervisor from that district may have a better idea.
Well, I was going to ask, do you think the Abbotts would agree with that?
Can you repeat what the intent to remand it back to?
Okay, the intent to remand it back is that the Planning and Zoning would consider a setback limitation that allows them to build the property up to a certain line. And I guess we'd have to determine that during the Planning and Zoning so that they don't encroach too far into the sight line of everybody else, so that it would be the same situation.
So I'm, Mr. Abbott is here, and he may be able to speak some of that. But I want to, bring it back to the point that we've asked for the exact same setbacks, the setbacks that everybody, the setbacks that all these other property owners have. So the stairs down, shade structure, those things. We asked for the same setbacks. I did talk to the property owner to the east, and and it's that's the property owner that has walked all this around. There's plenty of people that support the Abbotts. That's not, he doesn't have a terrible name out there. It's just that neighbor enjoys the view across the Abbotts property, which could be changed with Italian cypress trees. A wall. It would completely change it. That's well within what could be done right now. And so I spoke to him and said, hey, we didn't meet each other at the Planning Commission. I understand you have a letter that you're circulating, getting people against this. Is there something that we could look at? Is there something that I'm missing? Is there something that is not harmonious with development out there? I said, what I want to do is I want to drag a string across the property, and that across an area that can't be built because we have our patio and we enjoy the view across the neighbor's property. It's so having, like I said, planting trees right there would still take away that view. The view when the Abbotts walk out of the front door is actually oriented to the east. Looks at just the windows now of that property. We're not here to talk about the disagreements between the neighbors. if there was just an intent to block or challenge their view, that could be done much easily and cheaper than the process that we've gone through with planting some trees. We're here just because to talk about the zoning and to move forward with zoning that is comparable and the same as as the rest of the development. We're not increasing traffic. They've paid to maintain the streets, which they didn't need to do. They could have just stayed outside of it, but they have done everything. The existing structure could be built 60 feet tall in that RA20 zoning district. Again, asking to give that right away and just have the same height limit as the rest of the development out there. Just want to be in conformance with the county plans. We've worked close with county staff and conformity and with the rest of the development out there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Matt and JD, if we went back to the planning and zoning and put the setback on it, do you think there would be an objection?
Well, I'm not sure because I'm not sure how that would work. To identify that setback, I believe we'd probably have to get engineers out there and surveying to survey exactly where on that grade the setback would be changed
It's not
to.
just going to planning and zoning and say that your setback has to be the same as everybody else's?
So our proposed setback is the same as everyone else's. Everyone else in the PD, we worked with staff and we mirrored that PD. Said the parking, the rest of Martinez Lake. Actually, when I was the planner for that final plat years ago, there was something that, there was discussion about traffic impact studies. There was discussion about the roads out there and parking.
Right.
So, we included to have 4 parking spaces, which is probably more aimed at some of those 4,000 square foot parcels, but
Yeah.
we've proposed the exact same setbacks as the rest of it. So the setback on the property to the east and setback on the property to the west would be the exact same.
They do
if
have the
approved.
same proposed setbacks.
Mr.
Staff.
Chairman, yes. This
Mr.
is an
Chair,
exact same PD as written in the Martinez Lake Plan Development.
Okay.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair
So there's no
and staff, that means that he couldn't build down below anyway.
Mr. Chairman, again, under the current zoning, as long as the setbacks are adhered to, and with proper engineering, they would be able to develop that property, and under the current zoning, build a structure at 60-foot height. With the proposed plan development,
Yes.
again, they would have to follow the setbacks of the PD, which currently they're proposing. The PD is proposing 3 feet front yard setback, 3 feet side yard setback, rear yard setback at 3 feet. Of course, the topography of the property would put some limitations as far as what it can build on property.
Okay, but it doesn't say that they can't build down where those palm trees are, correct?
According to the proposed plan development, they would be able to go 3 feet from the rear property line.
So they could go 3 feet from that red line up and build.
They could, Mr. Chairman, with proper engineering. That would be require lots
That
of
would
engineering.
be quite a feat, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, any of those lots that are currently zone PD,
Yes,
they would also be able to do the same.
okay. Thank you.
All right, I saw the gentleman back there, which I suppose Mr. Abbott wanted to say something, and this is a public hearing, and please state your name.
Yeah, my name's Brian Abbott, and I'm obviously the owner of 10343 Martinez Lake Road. I know Barry basically gave you the neighbor's view of it, and there's a little more history to this as it started. So the first garage design was in that triangle that they've got drawn back on the property. And we tried to basically set it on that property line and get a variance to put it on that property line, because the way that the cabin is skewed on that, there's only 10 feet from the corner of that cabin to the property line.
Yeah.
And you're backing in and trying to back into that. So we were trying to set that garage on that property line. That's how we started. And the Camerons got it denied. And it was denied because there was a 1 hour firewall in the plans. for whatever reason, we were denied, and because of the type of the case that it was, we didn't have an appeal, so we moved forward. So in going forward, because we weren't allowed to put it on the property line, then our only option then was to push back. So as we pushed back, because then the setback became calculated at 5 feet off of that property line. So our current setbacks now, I think, are what the cabin is from the street, what the cabin is from the side, and the way that it's calculated is it's 5 feet on that east side. And then the setback currently is from that red line at the water is 34 feet. I'm just going to clarify this because in trying to change what that zoning is, it doesn't matter if it's the PD zoning or the RA20. At 34 feet from that line up, and I can walk over and show you where the building is at 34 feet, and that's what we came back to at 34 feet is where we were going to build that garage. What we didn't understand is that we should have attached it to the cabin. We didn't attach it to the cabin. The Camerons went to court and said, look, it's a secondary dwelling. Well, that's our mistake for not understanding, and the engineer that we used, we called it a dwelling. There was basically 800 square feet of garage space, 900 square feet of garage space, and then about just right at 600 of upstairs space. We should have attached to the cabin. We didn't. We went to court. We lost because we were enlarging a non-conforming. Mr. Olson in the court case says we should go to rezone. If they're trying to go forward with this, we should go rezone. I talked to the county. Here we are. So I've got certain setbacks now with the RA20, and we can go forward. What the property is set, that skewed cabin makes it either I wipe the cabin off and I build completely new, or what we designed was to fit in that little corner there, and absolutely it's going to affect the Cameron's view. What I want to make you guys aware of.
In the setback.
Yes, we were in the setback, but we were denied because we were enlarging and non-conforming because they challenged the upstairs space. And so, rightfully so, we missed it. The county missed it because we got a permit. We were going forward. So it makes it sound like we were in litigation while we were developing. No, we started building it because we had a permit. The litigation came after the fact that I already dug the holes, and we stopped because before we pour concrete, we haven't poured any concrete at this point. So we lost. So then we were doing the PD to go forward so I can pin down exactly what those setbacks were. There was some challenge in court about the 5 foot and how the county calculated the 5 foot, that the 5 foot should be 7 feet because the way that Mr. Olson interprets it is for the Cameron's benefit. It was 7 foot, so I'm a little nervous. So we came back, I found JP, we talked. We're here submitting to try to pin down what I can build to going forward. I'm trying to conform. I'm willing to give up the 60-foot height, but I also want to make you aware that the size of that structure that the Camerons built and the opposition, that the way that this is built is the view that he's talking about that we're blocking there. I'm not blocking view. In fact, what we're building is completely hidden from all the opposition, basically behind their house. In fact, if what we've got coming up is actually parallel to what the Cameron structure is there. I'm not coming past Cameron structure, I'm at their structure. So with some of that being said, I even took some pictures on a floppy drive, if it makes a difference, we flew a drone and took pictures from the neighbors across looking at the view, and there's no view blocked. So when they claim that the only people that I'm affecting are my direct neighbors, Camerons. I'm affecting their view because I'm trying to put that garage there.
And they have windows all along that one.
They absolutely there's 2 large windows right where the little red circle is on that side.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, there's 2 large windows there. So yes, it's been a battle with the neighbors because they don't want to lose their view rights. We've gone back and forth and trying to find resolve. I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to resolve it. I just want to go forward and the main was to put in the garage. The space over top was, if we were going to put in the garage, we might as well take advantage of the cost of below and add some space on top. Not understanding the laws and the little ordinance that we got caught in, we should have attached. So
let me see before you step down, Mr. Abbott, what we're hearing from staff and yourself is that regardless of the zoning, you still have, I mean, it's just a matter of setbacks. If you move it forward 5 feet, you can still build your 2-story building and it won't be against, or quote, our regulations, the county's regulations. And if you do it this way, you'll be able to then sort of build up, just like you have right now, which would be 5, just closer. Is that correct in my assumption, or does he still have to meet some setbacks?
Mr. Chairman, under the proposed plan development, the property owner will be able to construct a structure at 3 feet from the east property line.
All right, so what it does is it basically replaces a variance and allows him to build that building with less setback, which is the way he originally thought he could do it.
If it would match the PD, so if I put the 2-hour firewall, exterior wall, then it would allow me to build on that property line. So where the struggle is that the PD is all 0 setback except for the fronts at 3 foot. So where they also bring up the fact that we did not join when it was originally offered, and I agree with you, we didn't join. I was partnerships with my father in it. My father wanted no part of the CCNRs, the HOA. He's had some bad experiences. He wanted no part of it. My father's passed. I was never in agreement, but I was a minority holder, so I didn't have much say. It was what my father's wishes were anyway. So now that he's gone, I'd like to be part of it. I'd like to take advantage of the 0 setbacks and conform with what's going on. And the other properties have done the same thing. 2 over from Cameron's is another property that was just like this cabin. And what they did is they put a garage in, there's a wall, they cleaned it up. It's actually the next one to the right, that one right there, the Roberts. They're in opposition, but they did exactly what I'm looking to do. The difference is it just wasn't in Cameron's view.
Yeah, we got it.
So there's multiple properties that are exactly the same as what I am with a 50-year-old cabin. It's in the PD and they don't have to upgrade or change or anything. I'm just trying to put in a garage, and unfortunately I'm in the view of Mr. Cameron.
Right, Mr. Arrow, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you're ready, Supervisor Simmons, I'd say you go.
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the rezoning case 21-09 and hope that the neighbors can work through this as it transpires or as they build.
And I hope the county can have a constructive part of that process.
I'll second that.
Now, before we take a vote and I forgot, we need to close the public. Is there anyone in the public that wants to address the board? I need to close the public hearing before we make a decision, right? I just asking an attorney almost an impossible task.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've got the sentiment from the board, but if Abbott comes back with the county, with the structure they've already started that wasn't lawful then, I'm having difficulty understanding why the county is going to condone and allow them to go forward by changing the zoning with an unlawful structure that the neighbors objected to. That's the problem.
I think the answer to that is that normally when there's a non-conforming use and the property owner wants to bring it into conformance, we tend to lean towards letting them fix the problem as opposed to saying, well, you got a problem, so keep it. I think that's more or less the feeling in general. I understand all the animosity, especially because people go to Martinez Lake for the view, right? So they want to have a house with all the views. And when someone takes their time, like in this particular case, and it's explained the way he explained it, I think it makes a lot of sense. When you don't know the details, I think you can just simply say, why would you help someone that's in violation, come into conformity? This is another one of those. This is one of those days where you find yourself, on one side looking at, okay, we're going to do something that the developer has worked their way through. And then on this one, we're looking at, okay, well, the neighborhood also has problems, but this is more like, okay, you want to fix something that is obviously wrong. And whether you got to that point by going through a court case and actually finding out you couldn't do it. Sometimes in government, we find ourselves in a situation where we may be able to fix something, but we can't fix the neighbor's feelings or we can't fix the history. That's something that we can go on and fix. But we may be able, Mr. Olson, in this particular case, to put it in a context of everybody's the same. Although it's a little late and maybe there's some hurt feelings, I don't think we're doing anything, or at least it looks to me like we're not doing anything that I believe is going to give anyone an advantage. And that's what other than the fact that he's already paid for the court case and he's already lost it and he's already gone through a lot of heartbreak, I have a sense that we wanted to send it back because we wanted to make sure that the neighborhoods were protected, that if we could do anything to protect those rights, we would. It turns out that if we do this, they may be protected. I don't know. I think it's still going to be a matter of faith and about coming to the county and the county staff, understanding the feelings behind it and not allowing us to regret our decision, whatever the decision may be, because I don't know what the decision was.
I don't have a problem with the PD. It's just, I think the PD, what's getting abused here is that it's that rear setback from the river. If they were to modify that, and I don't see any harm in doing that, to send it back to the commission, because they never answered your question about the rear setback from the river. If they basically were to match it up with the neighbors, then we don't have a problem. That's all we're asking.
From the looks of the aerial picture, where that base is, the pillars, I can't see it that clearly, but I think that if we look at it just from the top like that, you basically see that. You see that that's not, if those pillars were over the drop, as I call it, over the drop, I'd have a problem with that.
Well,
I think it's
they are. They're down here. That's the problem. This is the edge of the issue, but they're way out into here. That's where the pillars are.
Wow.
No, they're not.
They're not shown on there.
They're not.
But see, that's where, okay, the answer better come from staff.
Mr. Chairman, as I can recall, I did the review of the building permit. The setback was met when, the proposal was, the permit was applied for. It was shown at least 34 feet from the rear property line.
So there's 34 feet from the edge of that property to where the pillars begin.
The
less
current
from the water.
setback of RA
From the
20
what?
required 34-foot setback, and the applicant met that setback when the permits were applied for.
Whoa. Okay, now,
So the garage is
Yeah, well,
gonna be built over here.
I thought it was next to the build, but wait,
it is next.
there is a little confusion here, and
Well-
maybe that's why we're having so much trouble. I was under the impression that what they wanted to build was attached, but that the intent was to attach it to the old cabin. That if they had attached it to the cabin, it would have been just an extension of the cabin,
right.
but because they did it, detached, it was a detached building, which, again,
It couldn't
wouldn't work unless you had a PD. That's my impression. And then I thought, from the looks of it, I thought it was just gonna build next to the cabin. Those pillars, I couldn't tell.
The PD application they submitted doesn't have a building plan with it. That's the issue. And with the PD, I've done PDs. I'm the one, as you recall, when Lucy Shipp was here, when we were having all these cases, was, hey, why don't you do a PD? So I started doing the PD
definitely.
rezonings. And you could tell I'm a little agitated because I know the history on this, but we had to submit detailed plans. There are no detailed plans here. And we keep hearing from staff, they're within the 34-foot setback. That's with the RA 20 zoning. But their pillars are down below. I've seen them. We have pictures of them.
See, this is one of the reasons why. I think when you do a PD, and let me the attorney left, but he left another one, so we can't, but I think that the PD allows certain flexibility during this process. It's not like a regular zoning case. It allows a lot of limitations. It allows for us to request certain things. And those are the kind of things we request on PDs that make sure that, tries to make sure that if a PD is approved, there are certain things that in this particular case, the homeowner or the developer has to do to make sure that when we give him the PD, he has straight directions. If there is no plan attached to a PD, if there is no restrictions attached to a PD, which I think there is, there is. It's sort of not on a building plan, but this is, instead of getting clearer, it's getting a little more confusing to me. Maybe I haven't been here long enough to understand a lot of this process, because I thought it was kind of simple. But okay, so explain it to me. So down below, there's pillars as if a structure is going to be built on top. Is that
Mr.
correct?
Chairman, I don't recall, maybe the property owner, he'd probably be able to give us better information on that. Now, what I recall seeing is some retaining walls being built down there. Maybe the agent can explain about the pillars. Again, because the permit expired and we did not do any inspections.
So you're going to have to issue a new permit.
Yes, they'll have to come in and apply for new permits. So, depending on the outcome of this meeting,
Fine. Let me ask, how long is the property? How much, if you go back 34 feet, where would you be in terms of that picture?
As far as I recall, the 34-foot setback would put
The
the
beginning
property line
of,
somewhere in here.
all right.
I
So
mean, not the
even if
property
there's,
line, but the
okay.
setback line.
So even if there's a pair of pillars being built in the bottom, which may or may not be for a building, but instead for a wall, if the PD is approved, you can't build 34 feet. You have to build 34 feet back of the actual.
No, Mr.
water line.
Chairman, and remember, the proposal is for them to be able to do the same as
Everybody
the
else.
other people in the
Is everybody
development.
else back
A
34 feet?
3-foot setback. With a 3-foot setback,
30 what?
yeah, just like any other property
3
under the planned
feet?
development, 3 feet from the real property line, which would put it
Any-
somewhere in the water line.
Wow. Wow, now that I wasn't aware. I thought that you had 30 feet setback from the water line. but
That's
you
what
don't
you have at 20.
Sorry.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, I just want to clarify some things, that we're only proposed the same standard. So we've asked for a specific development standard that's the same as neighboring property owners. Any building permit will have to go through the county, be vetted through the county.
The question is, does the PD right now allow properties to be built up to, as close as 3 feet to the water?
Correct. The rear side yard, the rear yard setback on all of those property zone PD is a 3-foot rear yard setback.
Now, that's gonna be a problem for me.
The same as everyone there. It would take some engineering marvel to, the topography drops off quite a bit right there.
You don't understand
But again, we're just asking for, the same property.
Under a PD, Mr. Rubio, can we, this is a new PD, although it meets the old one. This is a new PD, and the purpose of this new PD is to allow them to build something that I consider to be sort of like an adjacent structure. That was the only reason for me to be able to grant a PD. I am not comfortable granting a PD that allows people to change the whole way that this whole development has gone, which means to allow a building up to 3 feet to the water line. That is not what I would like to see. What I'd like to see, if possible, is to set up a setback that is basically allows them to build anywhere before you drop, whatever that may be, 30, 40 feet. Now, if that needs to be sent to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and we gotta remember, there's a motion in a second. So we're taking a vote here. Now, is that vote doesn't require a majority, a supermajority?
This proposal does not,
Okay,
because
no.
there is not.
So the
valid law.
likelihood of getting a 3-2 vote is there. So, just go back to this. This new PD will allow Mr. Abbott to actually be able to change the way that he, allow him to build anything up to 3 feet from the actual lakefront, which would be a very different type of situation than the rest of the people have decided to do. I guess they could have built 3 feet up to the property line, but they obviously haven't from the area picture that I can see. I don't know, maybe in the other side they do.
And anyone adjacent
Can
would
do
have that same property.
Yeah,
right.
but they
The Cameron's property to the west have that same property right.
I know. I think the property rights aren't in
Yeah,
question here.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, as you can see, the way that Martinez Lake has developed, the properties are zone plan development. They have to adhere to the plan development standards, which is what the Abbotts are intending to do here. The reason that you have not seen anyone encroach up onto the rear property line, because it's probably impossible with the engineering that would be involved. Not only that, you also have to satisfy flood control as far as flood zones and stuff like that. So that's why the development has not really developed that way. You see all the new development around the lake there, that no one's encroached into that 3-foot rear yard setback. And I don't know, maybe Mr. Abbott can speak on behalf of him and his proposal, but I don't see how he would be able to build something at 3 feet from that rear property line.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Before you ask the question, I don't see it now, but I can see why they're concerned. And that's the point, isn't it? The point of the opposition is they're concerned that it could be done, not whether they're intending to do it now, but technically speaking, once you allow this zoning, it can be done, even if it's out of spite, or even if it's out of, I want to do this and I can do it. That is my problem right at this point. I don't mind the concept of him building around there, I mean, he's got the right to do that. And I think right now he could do it anyway. The problem is we're now giving him tacit approval to do it if he wants to, and that's Mr. Abbott in this case, I think in particular. And I know it technically and engineering wise, it'll be very difficult. But if you're building pillars down below, if it's a retaining wall or not, but if you're building pillars down below, you're already indicating what you want to do, and at least if the pillars are to sustain something. Now, if they're a wall, they may be, but at this particular time, there's so much distress in the neighborhood that they may consider that to be your beginning of a structure. And that to me is a concern. I just wanted to make that point. Now, did you want to say something, Mr. Rubio, before, somebody?
No,
wanted to ask a
Mr.
question?
I did.
Yeah. Supervisor Pancrase wants to ask
Mr.
a question.
Chair and JD, doesn't the water fluctuate out there at Martinez Lake and go up and down depending on if a farmer wants additional water or doesn't want it and goes back into Martinez Lake? Isn't that the case?
That, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Pancrase, that's my understanding also. There's also,
go ahead.
The intent would be to develop that area down at the bottom, sort of as like a beachfront with some better steps back up to the cabin. In conformity with what's been done there. Have some type of boat dock, and so you could bring a boat or a jet ski and walk, and walk back up to
And
the
have
house.
the cement like they do down there.
If there was, I believe that there was an intent to change the neighborhood, that owning a property that could be developed at a 60-foot height limit would be done right now. I imagine that'd be, look great to somebody.
JD, the only thing is we wouldn't be involved in it. We wouldn't be the ones allowing it to happen. It would be by rights.
Right. I wanted to speak somewhat to
And
character,
again,
and there's not an intent to take one over.
I don't
on
believe
anybody.
there is an intent, JD. I believe Mr. Abbott. I believe he wants to fix something, and I believe he wants to do the right thing. But before we allow that to happen, we just want to make sure and make clear, and I think this, the supervisor made the motion, would like to make sure and make clear that this is not, that we won't have a structure. I mean, I can see the rest of the neighbors have put in some boat docks and stuff like that, so
Fairly old picture.
yeah, it's a fairly old picture.
There's been development.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
it's a lot improved since then, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Well, up to you guys, really. I mean, I just wanted to make those points so that they would not be left unsaid. So, Mr. Abbott?
Mr. Reyes, there's been development, the Camerons have developed this lot, there's a retaining wall now that comes out, it's 20 plus feet high, to come out 8 or 10 feet past the point of this, and then turns back. And their intent is to build out on that, so.
They own both lots, huh?
They own this and this lot. So Mr. Cameron, Terry Cameron owns this, the kids own this. So when we're taking a line, you're coming through this line.
Oh my gosh.
Their wall extends down here and turns and comes out, and they've actually put a trailer on top of that pushed. It actually overhangs the railing. So
This is not representative of what it looks like right
All
now.
right, okay.
no, it's not anywhere close.
Okay.
And with due respect, the pillars that we put in were because we lost the zero setback on the side yard. And the only way that I could put the garage in to get the door to where I could pull around to get in it was to slide back. So the pillars are basically off this retaining wall here. The pillars are just basically right up here close to that wall. They're not
Okay.
down here in the bottom.
Oh, I see.
They're nowhere near the bottom, and there's no intent to build down in the bottom of it.
Yeah,
So-
you lose your ambience.
Yeah, there's no way.
I know, you made a motion. It was
Well,
seconded by someone.
like I said, I
don't remember
wanna-
anymore.
Let's take
Leave-
it to a vote.
My motion and hopes that they can work
Work it out.
through this.
Yeah.
Because, Mr. Abbott's not asking for anything that's not already zoned around him. 98% of every lot in there is zoned the same way. Like I said, I think all we can do is just hope that the parties can come to some sort of mutual agreement in whatever you decide to build in there. So.
Well, I think we said enough. Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to close the public hearing, get back to the Board of Supervisors, which I've already done in some way. I just wanted to go back and finish it up. So there's been a motion and a second. I forgot who seconded that.
I did.
Supervisor Pancrase to approve the item as recommended by both the staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission. Any more discussion on this item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I think the ayes have it. All right, I hope you guys work it out, because I think you have a beautiful area, and I hope you can, get it to a point where everything is consistent. Thank you, everyone. The discussion regarding legislative issues, discussion and possible action regarding the following legislative item, a report to the Board of Supervisors regarding proposed bills. I hope there's no bills in the Arizona State Legislature.
So do I.
And update regarding strategies relating to federal legislative priorities. I think that one's more likely. But Mr. Figueroa, Alejandro,
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll be super brief. As you said, there's no new
you got 2
legislation.
minutes.
Thank goodness, thank goodness.
So much?
Yeah, a minute.
There we go.
Well, I don't know what that is,
Well,
but it doesn't look good. Oh, it's a very.
As Emergency Management Director Tony Padilla mentioned earlier today, there was a state of emergency declared on the town of Gila on Saturday following the severe flooding that happened overnight. 2 people have died amid the flooding, and officials have performed at least 30 rescues, according to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Okay, this is not looking good.
Wow.
There we go.
I think if there's anything that you want to take from that picture is that it can happen anywhere. That's in the middle of the desert right there. And it's that severe flooding to be talked about in Gila Bend means to me that people in Yuma County should be aware that flooding can happen anywhere. That could have been the foothills.
Don't tell me, I live
for
in
all
the
I care.
valley.
For all I care, for all I, I think. Go ahead, Alex.
Last week, the U.S. Senate approved H.R. 3684, the Invest in America Act. While the package had bipartisan support in the Senate, it still needs to go back through the U.S. House, where Democrats want to make progress on the budget framework before they take action on the Invest Act. The package provides $973 billion in total investments in infrastructure from fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2026, and $550 billion in new infrastructure investments, including $284 billion for transportation, $55 billion for water, $65 billion for broadband, as well as funding for the San Luis One Port of Entry expansion and modernization project. It is also worth noting that counties play a major role in Americans' transportation and infrastructure network, owning and operating 44% of public roads and 38% of bridges, more than any other level of government.
Before you move on to
Sure.
Before you move on from that, I do want to emphasize, Susan, and I certainly hope Scott's listening, that a lot of these projects, a lot of this money, when they become available for ready-to-do projects. So it behooves Yuma County to get as many projects in the 5-year strategic plan or whatever, as many projects as we can design and ready to go, because when it happens quickly.
Yes.
And it's happened before. So please just bear that in mind, because we do have some extra money coming in, and we need to have plans to spend it. Otherwise, we'll just have to return it,
That's okay.
which is not bad necessarily nationwide, but it is certainly not necessarily good for Yuma County. I think that when the opportunity comes, we need to be ready to take it. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, when I was in the lobby, I heard you talking about me.
Shovel real.
Well, I was thinking about you, but I didn't mention anything, so that the cameras are now recording my thoughts.
That's the vaccine.
Yeah, maybe I don't know what.
Got a microphone.
Go ahead, Alejandro. Don't let the minor details.
So the U.S. Department of Agriculture announced last Thursday $14.8 million to expand high-speed broadband in rural Arizona. The funding will be used to deploy a fiber to premises network in rural Arizona. The network will extend roughly 59 square miles and will be strategically placed to service both near-term and future developments in parts of rural Arizona.
Is it 14.8 million?
That's from
just
the
USDA.
USDA.
That's USDA.
That's USDA only, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, there's probably 6 different pots of money so far that are on the table for broadband, aside from what the county will receive.
Well, we'll let Susan go into that at the time her report comes up. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And that was my super brief update for you today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. If you have any questions,
How's the baby?
baby is doing great. Doing great. Thank you
Can
for
sleep
asking.
now?
Is she sleeping?
She's sleeping 3 hours in a row, which is good.
Woo-hoo!
Thank you for the brief.
Yeah, thank you for the brief. It's an improvement.
Thank you.
And thank you again for your efforts in getting that video done for the
Appreciate that.
consulate.
Oh,
It was
that
My
was
pleasure.
good.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Some of us butchered the Spanish language, but nevertheless, it came out really well. It came out really well. Thank you
Hey.
very much. And the next item in the agenda is, let me see, I think we're pretty much, board members and county administrator will report and may discuss events attended or to be attended on behalf of the county and may present a brief summary of current events and may update the schedule for future board of supervisors meetings as appropriate. No legal action will be taken. Supervisor Pancras,
Okay,
you gonna give me a shirt or what?
yeah, I attended the IRC meeting and
What's
that they
IRC?
had down here and
Oh, the Independent Redistricting
the
Commission, I'm sorry.
redistricting commission. And let them know that we like having 6 legislators instead of 3 in Yuma County. And that, you know, that was voiced by several members as well. I went to the groundbreaking for the US 95 widening. Oh, thank goodness. I went to the COVID-19, or I attended the COVID-19 Zoom meeting with that Tim Dunn planned, and I helped record. Thank you very much, Alejandro. The Mexico's 200th anniversary. I met with Tom from the Red Cross and got to see their new location, which is in the Crescent Center building, and met with their new volunteer director. I attended this Desert Southwest region growing our own engineering and technology that was put together by U of A, and I got a t-shirt, so. Yeah, we've been growing our own for a long time, but we need engineers and IT. So those are the things that they're working on right now. I went to the Yuma County Chamber of Commerce Legislative Committee wrap-up, and this next Wednesday I'll be attending Yuma County Farm Bureau meeting, annual meeting, and the PM10 meetings so far. So.
Supervisor Lyons, thank you very much. Supervisor Pancras. Supervisor Lyons.
So participated in in both IRC meetings and watched the kickoff of our local IRC meeting, and then with Susan participated in several broadband meetings to refine the RFP, and appreciate all of the work and the diligence there. Talked to a couple of different constituents who, again, were expressing and sharing their concerns about illegal dumping in the North Gila. And those conversations included pictures.
Wow.
I guess somebody couldn't make it all the way there, so they just pushed it off onto the side of the road.
Yeah.
Had several meetings and follow-up with Representative Dunn regarding the fairgrounds, as well as talking with Colonel Dudick as far as how to move forward. Participated in the Yuma 50 meeting, where it was their annual meeting, where that is one of their prioritizations as far as the preservation of the integrity of MCS Yuma and its full function. And met with Congressman Gosar here in Yuma and accompanied him on a couple of different meetings where he was here to recognize a sheriff with a congressional order. Was at the US 95 opening, met with Director Schwam in his office down at the port to talk about some of his efforts there. During COVID, San Luis was the #1 port in the United States for traffic. Talked to him about some of the challenges. He is now probably 3rd or 4th as far as the ports in total. And he still is looking at 6,000 to 8,000 crossings a day.
Yeah.
And that continues to ramp up. Wanted to ensure that he was prepared for the produce season, so that we were able to get people across and do their jobs in a short period of time. And then met with several Border Patrol agents who expressed concern about the ongoing situation, and the fact that we still have 500 to 600 people a day crossing, and that the local shelter is over capacity.
Mhm.
All right. Supervisor Simmons?
I had a meeting reference to 197 across the way, the construction meeting. Also attended the IRC meeting at the convention center. Had an LEPC meeting. Also had Highway 95 groundbreaking and numerous constituents and calls, reference to some upcoming zoning issues that are going to be coming before the board.
Supervisor Borges?
I also attended a meeting with architects and contractors for the 187 building. Attended the groundbreaking for Highway 95. And I've heard from a lot of border patrols that shelter is really over capacity and so.
Okay. The reason I asked you to stay, Alejandro, is because I was going to touch upon the census numbers a little bit and briefly, and I wanted Susan and to. I mean, look, the census numbers were somewhat within the range what we thought, but they were on the low side of the range that we thought. I honestly thought San Luis came out okay, and maybe even Somerton, but I thought the county in general wasn't really. I mean, the kind of growth, I mean, if you had 10,000 people more in San Luis, Arizona, there had to be more somewhere else other than the simple, we're not going to get into a lot of discussion because the attorney keeps, raising his eyebrows, but I do want to bring that into perspective. So would you please just put together the numbers and get us a copy of the numbers and so we can see what our next step would be, because I'm not totally comfortable that the numbers were what they should have been. The RRC, the independent, I mean, I think everybody here seems to have gone out there and said that we like the makeup of the current legislative district. I think the issues were always on the other side, the congressional districts. There was a lot of push for getting a congressional district, that's the river. I mean, just a report, it's a report. I attended the meeting and this is what they said. And they basically, that's what I think the focus is going to be. I don't think the numbers change much of what the representation is. I attended the Vision Group meeting, which is a meeting that we have in San Luis, Arizona to discuss logistic issues and border crossing issues. Sean was there and gave us a report on the issues that pertain to logistics around the border and the border issues in general, whether it's a high number of crossings or whether it's just the simple improvements that are being made on two, or the entomologist, which is something that I think will come, as become an issue. And I want to just say that every once in a while we make a decision that comes back and produces results that were to me unexpected, and that is to me the testing of the wastewater for COVID. That has become a very, very well-used tool for the school districts and the cities, and everybody seems to be getting something from that. I did not expect that. It has become a tool that I think is very, it's, to this point, is supported by us and well-used. So I wanted to just get that out in the community. Susan, you're next because the attorney is just getting a little testy.
Oh, that was a smile, Tony.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean, that was a smile because I quit. I quit in time.
Yeah, he was like, finally.
Finally quit. Alex, you can go if you want to.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Alejandro and I participated in the Chamber Chatter, which is their weekly radio show. So last Wednesday we participated, so it was a way for Alejandro to get introduced to the community and talk about all the good things that are happening in Yuma County. I had attended the CSA County Managers Association meeting last week in Pinal County. We held the broadband task force meetings. We'll have another one this Wednesday, and answered all of the technical questions to the RFP. So we've responded to all those, and we've sent out the third amendment. We're allowing the companies through September 7th to provide responses to the RFP. And the project team for 197 South Main met, and I think we're on track to move forward with that very effectively. And the census numbers you brought up, Tiffany Anderson is the one that's leading the census process with our Redistricting Advisory Commission, and she's working closely with the demographers on our statistics so she can assist Alejandro in preparing any information that you might need. Thank you. That's it.
That's it. Thank you very much. Is there any, well, there's nothing else in the agenda, so I guess this is the end of the meeting for this
Thank you.
morning. Thank you very much, everyone.